House resumes and debate continues. Yes, Honorable Grant, I recognize you. You may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As we embark on this journey for the development and the creation of a better way for Dominica, it gives me great pleasure to stand here this evening and give my unconditional support to the budgetary estimates for the fiscal year 2023-2024. Mr. Speaker, I would like to take this opportunity to commend the Honorable Dr. Irvin McIntyre for his stewardship thus far. During the COVID pandemic, Mr. Speaker, his leadership of the Ministry of Health kept the country safe. It kept the country hopeful, and we maneuvered out of a situation we have never experienced before. We are therefore confident that his talent will be demonstrated in his new role as Minister for Finance. Mr. Speaker, I would like to use this opportunity to thank my former cabinet colleagues and parliamentary colleagues for their support during the last fiscal year. Reginald Ostry, Ian Douglas, Kenneth Daru, Lady Daniel, and Roslyn Paul, Mr. Speaker. Their leadership and guidance is deeply appreciated. Mr. Speaker, I also would like to thank and look forward to the 2023-2024 fiscal year with my new cabinet colleagues, Mr. Speaker, as we develop the country that we so love. To the Honorable Prime Minister, on behalf of the West that the task ahead is easy. We are well aware of the stark reality in Dominica and that our local resources are limited. However, all conscientious, fair, and right-thinking Dominican will acknowledge there are tremendous challenges we have faced over the last 2 decades include natural disasters, economic recession, the COVID-19 pandemic, the Russian-Ukraine war, just to name a few, Mr. Speaker. We are confident that our people have the capacity once they are provided with the right opportunities. In this administration, we hold fast the belief that our people are strong and that they are the center of our development policies. We are a government for all citizens and residents of the Commonwealth of Dominica, regardless of their race, nationality, creed, or political persuasions, Mr. Speaker. Based on experience, we know that if we grow and develop our economy in a manner that will bring tangible benefits to our people, we must encourage foreign direct investments. But, Mr. Speaker, at the heart of our development is our programs and policies, as we have seen over the last 23 years. Mr. Speaker, the Inter-American Development Bank recently stressed digitization of services has the potential to boost economic activity. In October 2022, the IMF published a working paper which states that the subject was whether or not digitization improved economic resilience and mitigating scarring. Mr. Speaker, data from over 24,000 firms in 75 countries prove that businesses and industries harnessing digital technology can unlock productivity gains through instances where automation are better able to connect customers and employees. Mr. Speaker, the ECCB, in a blog posted October 21, stated that the acceleration of the adoption and or use of technologies is paramount. Mr. Speaker, this is why, through a loan of $28 million, in what this government is calling the Digital Transformation Project, we are seeking to develop this sector. Through the Digital Transformation Project, for example, the tourism sector, which we have already implemented what we call the e-card, the online immigration and customs card. Mr. Speaker, later on in this fiscal year, we will be installing and implementing e-gate. What this simply is, Mr. Speaker, you swipe your passport and you go to customs to clear your baggage. Mr. Speaker, what this means is that immigration now has less work and the visitor experience is enhanced through technology. This project has three main components. Component one will strengthen the framework that will allow for modernization of the public service to deliver across the entire government system. The second component will leverage on the first component, enabling the digital environment to adopt technologies that will deliver to a group of high priority services and citizens. The third and final component will introduce a comprehensive package for education, training, and initiatives that will prepare the public officers and citizens to efficiently function and be productive in the new transformative digital paradigm. One of the key areas, Mr. Speaker, of this project is digital literacy. So over the last several months, the ministry has embarked on several training programs for public officers, the elderly, the youth, and for citizens to ensure that they are able to function and be productive in this sector. In the last fiscal year, Mr. Speaker, we commissioned a total of 15 innovation hubs across the country. Mr. Speaker, these state-of-the-art hubs are equipped with training equipment that would breed a new cadre of young professionals within the industry. To date, we have trained hundreds of citizens across various fields, including web programming and development. Additionally, Mr. Speaker, the hubs will serve as a venue where young people can come in and pitch their ideas to international, regional, and local stakeholders, Mr. Speaker. And this is something that the new generation should look forward to. Another key component of this project, Mr. Speaker, is the implementation of a new tax system. What this means, filing your taxes and viewing your taxes in real time, Mr. Speaker, and that also will reduce the cost on the Inland Revenue, Mr. Speaker, in terms of the manner in which they deal with customers. Mr. Speaker, one of the largest components of this project is the health management system. Mr. Speaker, page 29 and 30 of this year's budget explain this very well, Mr. Speaker, and Dr. Mark, the member for the Rosa Valley, did an excellent job. But Mr. Speaker, if we were to put this in context, recently I was having a discussion with my labor women's group, Mr. Speaker, and to encourage them to be part of the digital space. So in explaining the health system, Mr. Speaker, what does that mean for the ordinary person? So you have somebody in the Wesley Woodford Hill area who is ill. You go to the Woodford Hill Health Center or the Wesley Health Center. For whatever reason, on the visit, you are transferred to the Dominica China Friendship Hospital. On giving your name, Mr. Speaker, the hospital is able to pull up all your information, your date of birth and your previous history in terms of your medication and previous visits you may have had with the institution, the Dominica China Friendship Hospital, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, this is essential to improving our health services, Mr. Speaker, and the Minister for Health, Honorable Laville, will go into more detail about this. Mr. Speaker, another interesting component of this project is the e-payment service for government services. Mr. Speaker, to put it in one of the more common examples, you no longer have to go to the Treasury to pay $150 for your passport renewal. You could sit at your home, pay online, print your receipt, and take your form in to the immigration department. And this is what we are doing when we say that we are making doing business not just in Dominica but with the government much easier, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we are looking to develop our small businesses under the digital transformation project. So we will be working with a number of small businesses to ensure that they can create codes. So a small agro-processor could generate a QR code. This could be part of their labeling. And for purchasers, could scan the code, you could get information about the vendor, where they are located, what other products they have on display. And in some instances, Mr. Speaker, which the game changer was that you could pay the vendor. And this is something that we are working on currently, and I think this would enhance our locals in terms of the small businesses, and I think that this is something that we should be very excited about, Mr. Speaker. Under this project, we will not be only buying software, we'll not only be buying hardware, but we'll be developing the capacity of our small business persons. So what you will find, Mr. Speaker, in the coming weeks, we will be launching the Small Business Grant. In this grant, what happens is that a small business could get up to 27,000 Eastern Caribbean dollars, Mr. Speaker, for digitization of their small business. What does that mean, Mr. Speaker? As a small business, you could get grant funding to purchase a point of sale system, to buy accounting software, to develop and improve on your social media presence, to develop QR codes. So, Mr. Speaker, this, like I said before, is a grant. You could get up to $27,000, and this will be launched in about 2 to 3 weeks, Mr. Speaker, so the general public can look forward to this. Mr. Speaker, when we talk about digital, we have to ensure that the security and the safety of data is crucial. So, Mr. Speaker, what we'll be doing in this fiscal year, we'll be bringing to this Parliament a number of bills. The Data Protection Bill, the Electronic Communication Bill, the Payment Systems and Services Bill, among others, Mr. Speaker. But, Mr. Speaker, what is most important to complement these bills, what we'll be doing is setting up a computer emergency and response team. What is that, Mr. Speaker? We'll be building, we already have the offices, we are outfitting it with the relevant equipment, but what we'll be doing is pulling together a group of professionals who are experienced in various fields to help us fight cybercrime, Mr. Speaker. So the public can rest assured, Mr. Speaker, that we are taking all the steps that are necessary to ensure that their data and information is safe and secure at all times. So there should be no fear, Mr. Speaker, in the use of technology here in the Commonwealth of Dominica. Mr. Speaker, we continue to create opportunities for our young people, and the digital economy is playing a vital role in this, Mr. Speaker. So thus far, over 181 Dominicans have been trained, and over 109 have been engaged in online jobs and earning a very decent wage, I might add, Mr. Speaker. As we speak, we currently have 60 persons who are engaged in online training in a 12-week program, and soon, Mr. Speaker, they will be finding jobs online. Mr. Speaker, I want to encourage all citizens, especially our young people, to use social media in a responsible manner. It is very expensive, if not impossible, to delete the material that you put online. And I want to urge the general public, Mr. Speaker, to use the internet and the opportunities that are before us for networking, but more importantly, Mr. Speaker, to make money. Mr. Speaker, very often when you hear public works, roads and bridges, and this is a significant part of the ministry's work. So over the last fiscal year, Mr. Speaker, COVID-19, the Russian-Ukraine war, led to delays in the East Coast Road project, Mr. Speaker. Manufacturing costs went up, the increase of materials went up, the increase in shipping, Mr. Speaker. There were a number of challenges. However, Mr. Speaker, under the leadership of Mr. Colin Geese, and I must applaud the efforts of the engineer consultant within the ministry, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Kendall Johnson, for the work that he has done to bring in this project through thus far. Mr. Speaker, the DVRP have done a number of things in building resilience, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, down at Jimit, we have a new met lab, Mr. Speaker, with state-of-the-art equipment. We have also established our national soils and survey mapping. To build all these things, Mr. Speaker, is in building resilience. Mr. Speaker, I'm not going to go into details of the East Coast Road project. My colleague, Honorable Frederick and Honorable Alfred, will go into more details, Mr. Speaker, of that specific project. Mr. Speaker, but as Minister, I would just like to take this opportunity to express my thanks to the good people of Castilloos and the Carolinago territory for their patience during this time. I want to reassure them that once complete, the benefits from this project will far outweigh the small and minor discomforts that they have experienced. Mr. Speaker, the member for Granby and the member for Petit Savan spoke of the Bagatelle, Lubia to Bagatelle Road. Mr. Speaker, just to remind the public that this road is an $85 million grant from the UK government, Mr. Speaker. We have to get some additional funding because the reality of it is, from Maria to now, the cost of building roads and bridges have gone up significantly. However, this government is committed to the reconstruction of this road, and we should see work commence in this fiscal year. Mr. Speaker, I assure my colleague, Honorable Lloyd, will speak to the Layo Valley Road project. The immense appreciation the farmers and users of that road have, Mr. Speaker. It only takes now 5 minutes from Layo Bridge to the York Valley Bridge, and I just want to assure the Dominica public that the York Valley Bridge Road to the Sultan Warner Junction is under assessment, and we're hoping to do some rehabilitation on that road within this fiscal year, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, climate change have affected not just Dominica, but the world. So we have a number of interventions that we, as a government, we are committed to getting done. So, Mr. Speaker, I would just like to note that the Red Gully area, the Bells retaining wall, and there are a number of other critical areas, the Hampstead Bridge, all these areas, Mr. Speaker, remain a priority for this government, and we'll be tackling them one by one. Mr. Speaker, while I'm on roads, I would like to express my concern with the number of road fatalities and accidents we have over the last few months, Mr. Speaker. And I would just like to urge the users to exercise a little bit more care and responsibility when they are on this road, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, within the Ministry of Public Works, we have a small division, a group of hardworking young men and senior fellows, Mr. Speaker, called the Electrical Division. Now, within that division, during the last fiscal year, we tested and passed 2,121 electrical systems, Madam Speaker, or homes. Now, you might say, what, Mr. Speaker, what are these figures? Over 2,000 electrical tests, Mr. Speaker. It means, Mr. Speaker, that there are new connections. New connection means new homes, new businesses. And something that is popping up right now, Mr. Speaker, is the Airbnb. So you have garages turning into businesses. And so you have a separate connection for these. So the 2,100 means, Mr. Speaker, is just another indication that the economy is growing and persons are investing. Mr. Speaker, we have a small team of dedicated engineers within our technical services division, Mr. Speaker. a group of hardworking young men and individuals, and we have a few women with us, Mr. Speaker. And what we have been trying to do is improve on our processes in terms of contract management and supervision. So, Mr. Speaker, I would like to commend the men and women of the Technical Service Division, Mr. Speaker, for their hard work. We often hear the opposition elements state that the government is not doing nothing for the people of Dominica. I would like to take this opportunity to speak of it's a small part of our ministry. Well, it's a significant part actually, where public utilities. Well, Minister Lockhart is the one responsible for this, and she will go into more details. But I would just like to point out a few things, Mr. Speaker. We have $10 internet service, what we call Net for All. So you have low incomes, which is less than 2,500, paying $10 for internet. What is the standard price or the regular price of an internet connection? You're looking at 120, 110. Now, if you're paying $10, Mr. Speaker, it means that you now have an extra $100 in your pocket. And those are the interventions that we speak of when we talk about improving the lives of persons. So in addition to having broadband coverage across the country, we are now providing internet service for low-income households, Mr. Speaker, less than what the normal rate is. So persons are paying $10, Mr. Speaker, for broadband service. We move across to Domlec. Last year in the budget, Mr. Speaker, we moved the VAT-free units from 100 kilowatt hours to 150 hours. Mr. Speaker, we also removed the VAT on the fuel surcharge. All of this, Mr. Speaker, we are allowing for every Dominican to have basic utilities connected to their home so that they can live in dignity, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we may increase DOASCO slightly, but we have not done so for several years. And we often hear, oh, DOASCO take water again. But it is very costly, Mr. Speaker, in terms of the maintenance of these pipes. So there might be a small increase, Mr. Speaker, but we have hesitated doing this for several months because we understand what it is, Mr. Speaker, to have basic utilities connected to the homes of every Dominican. The last 6 months, Mr. Speaker, have been filled with a lot of challenges, but I look forward to continue working in the ministry. I would like to express my heartfelt thanks to my colleague, Honorable Lockhart Hippolyte, the Permanent Secretary, Mr. Emil Lancelot, other staff of the digital project, Dr. Japierre, Lindell Saul, all our foreign partners and governments which have been working with us, Mr. Speaker. But importantly, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to convey my thanks, Mr. Speaker, because they are the ones who set the base on which I can now, the foundation on which I can now stand. Honorable Laville and Honorable Rui, Mr. Speaker, who were in the ministry prior to me coming, Mr. Speaker. So I express my heartfelt thanks to them for the work that they have done, Mr. Speaker. So I call upon the staff, Mr. Speaker, within the ministry to let us manage the resources that are made available to us in a responsible manner. And as we look forward to the 2024 financial year. Mr. Speaker, warm greetings to the constituents of Wesley. And I would like to pray God's blessing on every household, Mr. Speaker, and good health. Mr. Speaker, yet another occasion, I would like to express my heartfelt thanks and gratitude to the people of Eden Road, Bonham, Bottom Wesley, and Palm Tree. Those who have had to be relocated from the homes that they have lived for the last 25, 30, and in some cases 40 years, Mr. Speaker. And I think it's important that every opportunity I get, I express my heartfelt thanks for them, Mr. Speaker, because they moved without any hesitation, Mr. Speaker, and they are living comfortably in the new area, Joe Burton. And I must, on behalf of the government, on behalf of the rest of the community of Wesley, or rest of Dominicans, Mr. Speaker, express a heartfelt thanks to them. I am filled with admiration and respect for these people, Mr. Speaker, because it's not easy to give up your home after 30 years and move to a new location. But, Mr. Speaker, in moving, most of the person within the constituency are saying, Parep, we understand and we know that there are challenges, but we are looking forward to the international airport. There have been a lot of noise about the trucks in the village, the potholes. Mr. Speaker, we have found a new route, and the trucks are no longer passing in the middle of the village. So there's less noise pollution. And let me just say that it's an interim measure when we use the village because time was against us. We have now found a new route. And the holes, Mr. Speaker, I have spoken to the Honorable Prime Minister, spoken to the developers. In the coming weeks, we'll be cleaning the village of all the mud that is currently there and repairing all the potholes, which are in the community as we speak, Mr. Speaker. So there will be a massive cleaning and restoration of the roads within the constituency of Wesley. We would hear of all the noise, but we don't hear persons shouting. Of the over 50 persons from my constituency who are employed, you have tradesmen, you have laborers, you have truck drivers, you have cleaner, and other support staff. Everyone is taking to Facebook, Mr. Speaker. They will make all sorts of posts, they'll make all sorts of lives, but Mr. Speaker, you never hear them say that the shops, the restaurants, and every individual in Wesley is making money. Mr. Speaker, if you are a salesman on a bus or a truck, you look forward to coming to Wesley because your sales are high right now, Mr. Speaker. And you only have high sales because you have high consumption. And you have high consumption because persons are spending money. Mr. Speaker, the Senator is still with me, Mr. Speaker.
Senator, yes, proceed, Honorable Minister. So I give you protection there.
I thank you for that intervention, Mr. Speaker. We have challenges, and we're not going to pretend that those do not exist, Mr. Speaker. But I would like to call on our farmers, our hucksters, the women who are in horticulture, to start placing themselves in positions where they can make money. Farmers in the constituency have been complaining and asking for better roads, Mr. Speaker, and access to lands. I would like to give them that commitment that access roads. I have a commitment from the Minister of Agriculture, the Prime Minister as well, the Minister of Finance. So we'll be continuing with development and the improvement of farm access road. But it's not like we don't invest in farm roads. The Mango Gutter Road, Mr. Speaker, during my tenure as Minister of Agriculture, cost $2.6 million, Mr. Speaker. That's a farm road that connects Wesley to Woodford Hill. And Mr. Speaker, the production in that area is very high, and it means that our farmers are producing. We'll be moving to other areas like Simpa and Mambury to improve access, Mr. Speaker. But the farmers and the residents of Wesley and Woodford Hill, Mr. Speaker, they have my commitment that these roads will be developed. What I would urge young people to do, Mr. Speaker, is to come and see me. Let us have a discussion, fill out an application, and apply for lands. We have persons coming in from other countries, coming into Dominica, cultivating our lands, making money, paying rent, maintaining and feeding their families, purchasing vehicles, and they still have enough money to send out. Well, thankfully, in this budget, we'll be getting a small percentage of that, Mr. Speaker. So, in Wesley and sometimes Margot, the first thing they say, in order for you to do well as a farmer, you must have a pickup. You must have a brand new van. Mr. Speaker, because of the concessions that we have been given under this Labour Party administration, I'm not going to tell you the numbers what I have done when I was there. But if you drive through the community of Wesley, you would see a number of pickups carrying the registration FA. Those are not used pickups, you know, Mr. Speaker. Brand new, plastic on seat. That is what we have in the constituency of Western, Mr. Speaker. And it's because that we identified as a government the need for giving the farmers concessions so that they can develop their farms and continue to provide us with fresh fruits and vegetables. As part of, Mr. Speaker, there are a number of initiatives that I will be revamping in this fiscal year. We'll be making some changes. One of those initiatives is the Block to Farm project where we
30 more minutes, so you have a lot of time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Where we'll be providing and continue to provide the markets with fresh fruits and vegetables. There's a demand locally for cantaloupe, bell peppers, Mr. Speaker, and the list goes on. I mean, we cannot supply, so we will be making some upgrades, Mr. Speaker. I think that is something that the general public can look forward to coming out of the Wesley constituency. My passion as parliamentary representative is creating opportunity for my constituents where they can earn a sustainable living. So, as parliamentary representatives, we got $50,000, and my $50,000, Mr. Speaker, unlike some other power reps who fix the road to their house, I develop individuals, Mr. Speaker. You know, Mr. Speaker, so we go on social media, and we post that we are working and repairing roads, but the only two beneficiaries are in this house, Mr. Speaker. They are in this house. So we gain political office, and we are using state resources for our own benefit. The member from Margaret, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it's not a proper motive, Mr. Speaker. We need to educate the young senator. The fact of the matter is, the member use resources to his benefit. It leads to his home, it leads to his farm, and of course the senator as well enjoys the benefit of that intervention. So, Mr. Speaker, I hear we hear from Margot, but it seems like we hear for other reasons, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, my interventions were to develop the small agro processors. So, Mr. Speaker, what I've been doing is you buying bottles, you buying labels, so that they can create a sustainable living for themselves. A number of my constituents, Mr. Speaker, have benefited from the 2% loan at the aid bank, and this is something that this government has put in place. We heard the Minister for Finance as to how well that facility is doing. Mr. Speaker, what I'm excited about in this fiscal year is the development of the Woodford Hill Beach. The Woodford Hill Beach is becoming an attraction not just for visiting cruise ship passengers, Mr. Speaker, but for local tourists as well. So in this fiscal year, we'll be improving on the amenities at the beach, in the washroom facilities, we'll be having vending stores, and an area for entertainment. Mr. Speaker, I invite you sometime to visit the Woodford Hill Beach. Very relaxing, quiet, and safe area, Mr. Speaker. It's almost the #1 beach. We may be #2, but we'll get to #1 eventually, Mr. Speaker. It's also a safe beach, Mr. Speaker. But if you don't live in the constituency or in the northeast, you will not know that, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, many persons often get lost when they are visiting. I am free on the weekends to give them out of the area, because outside of the Margaret Credit Union, we just turn back and go down to Roseau. So I invite those of us who are not too familiar with the area to come and get a tour and explore the area. I will show them the airport site, you know, where the terminal is going to be. So I've heard few people wondering and got lost, Mr. Speaker. That's what we are trying to avoid. So that's why I'm offering my services to them.
Take it, giving you a talk. Yes.
I would like to express my gratitude to the NEP interns, Mr. Speaker. They are doing an excellent job in the community. And we are stronger in the Western constituency because of the work of the Yes We Care providers and the interns, our beautification crew, and the rest of the interns who are diligent, Mr. Speaker, and they earn, I must say, Mr. Speaker, they earn their wage. And I am very proud of them, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, the CBI program. This is non-tax revenue, Mr. Speaker. And this revenue stream helps to fund many of our programs. The NEP in the Western constituency provides numerous benefits for the shops. A number of single men and women, Mr. Speaker, continue to work. We have just over 100 persons who are elderly, bedridden, and are provided for. This is at no cost to them or their families. The Yes We Care, Mr. Speaker, and I think sometimes we just look at these programs as, or a Labour Party thing or a party, but the benefits, when you speak and you visit to some of the elderlies and they explain to you that I haven't seen my own children in months, I haven't seen nobody in months. All I know, Mr. Speaker, at some point in the day or the week, I will receive attention from a Yes We Care provider, Mr. Speaker. This is something that has to be commended. Another initiative, Mr. Speaker, I'm proud of to be part of this government is the over 65 pension. Now, if we take in context, most persons who are benefiting from this program would be nearing retirement when this government would have come into power. So, had it not been for that non-contributory pension, these persons would not be receiving any money on a monthly basis. So, and it's not no fault of this government, Mr. Speaker. It would be due to the governments before. But we recognizing that there is a need, put measures in place to ensure that they benefit. Mr. Speaker, a number of my constituents continue to receive financial assistance for medical and other emergencies. Again, Mr. Speaker, largely due to the CBI funds, and we have to be thankful for this. We often hear there are other countries who have this, they have that, and they are better than. But Mr. Speaker, what makes this government, this Dominican Labour Party stand out is that we continue to look after the most vulnerable in our society, and we continue to provide education grants, we continue to provide a number of areas, a number of assistance to them, Mr. Speaker. So one of the areas, Mr. Speaker, that is most touching to me is the financial assistance for education. For some of us who went to university in 2003 and before that, you would have to go to the bank and take a loan. And that loan would be at 10%. Now, in 2003, taking $100,000 at 10%, Mr. Speaker, some persons you would have been better off building a house. But what we have now, due to the interventions of this government, student loan has dropped to the point where some facilities are as low as 2%. The Labour Party changed the way that persons viewed education. So we have hundreds of Dominicans who would have received part of full funding for masters, bachelors, PhD, all funded, Mr. Speaker, by the Citizenship by Investment Program, Mr. Speaker. And this is something that we must be proud of and applaud the Dominican Labour Party for, Mr. Speaker. In the budget, Mr. Speaker, there are policies, there are figures. But what will stay with us is not the figures, Mr. Speaker. It's the policies that this government have introduced and implemented that will change your lives, and we'll remember them for many decades to come. And some of us, we sometimes tend to forget or pretend to forget very quickly. I mean, just a few years, less than 2 years ago, Mr. Speaker, Dominican Labour Party administration, we gave 40% off student loans. It's something that we often disregard, but Mr. Speaker, it's important, and I will explain why an intervention like that was important. Last month, Mr. Speaker, we often hear about, boy, I want to go to America, I waited for my green card. The great US of A, Mr. Speaker, the great US of A, the Supreme Court, struck down Joe Biden's proposal to wipe out billions in student loans. So normally an American would have gotten $10,000, $20,000 off. But this Labour Party administration, our honorable Prime Minister, gave 40% off on student loans for students returning to Dominica. Mr. Speaker, this is what we use our CBI funds for, the development of people, the development of our human resource, Mr. Speaker. So many of us get 4%, Mr. Speaker. I think I heard the senator say, yes, I get it too. So, and she smiled, Mr. Speaker. She got it as well, you know. But Mr. Speaker, a little gratitude, thank you. That's what we are asking, Mr. Speaker. But Mr. Speaker, there are a number of initiatives that we should be proud of moving forward, Mr. Speaker. And the constituency of Wesley is enjoying all these benefits. So we have the reduction in transfer fees, Mr. Speaker. We have $10,000 to first-time owners. Mr. Speaker, somewhere 2010, first mortgage was 7.5%. Now we have mortgages dropped to 4.5%, Mr. Speaker. If you look and you do the calculation, 3%, 1% of several $100,000, Mr. Speaker, is a significant saving. And that is the kind of environment the Dominican Labour Party has created. So yes, Mr. Speaker, we are giving homes to individuals who are in need. But persons who can afford, Mr. Speaker, we are also creating an environment where they too can go to the bank and finance their own homes at reduced and concessionary rates, Mr. Speaker. And it's because of the policies that we have put in place over time that we can now enjoy these benefits, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, within the Wesley constituency, we have benefited. We have a number of students at school. We have medical doctors. We have persons who are being trained as specialists. And it fills my heart, Mr. Speaker, when they send a little message, thank you, Palrep, I graduated, thank you, Palrep, I'll be finishing in 1 year. And they come back and they make a contribution, not only to the constituency, the community, but the country by large, Mr. Speaker. And I thank them for doing so, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, we hear all the negatives, but we will not hear that this government invented the Yes We Care, the housing programs. When we listen to the news and we look at the other OECS and CARICOM countries, Mr. Speaker, they are not doing these things. And we are able to do these things because of the CBI funds, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, the international airport is being funded through CBI. What does that mean for the ordinary Dominican? It means that now we are able to build an airport without any new taxes. And we would be able to build an airport where generations to come, Mr. Speaker, will not be burdened by that debt of an international airport, as we have seen in other countries, Mr. Speaker. So for those reasons, Mr. Speaker, we must defend the CBI. We must condemn the opposition, how they celebrate at the restrictions that we recently was placed on the country. But we must defend it, Mr. Speaker, because every Dominican is benefiting from the CBI funding, because we have the environment that the CBI have allowed us to create. We are all thriving because of the investment and the policies from this Labour Party administration. Mr. Speaker, I am excited because by the end of the fiscal year, this year, a number of young men and women across various professional disciplines in the Wesley constituency will be purchasing, I should be clear on that, will be purchasing lots within the Wesley constituency. So you find in the Joe Bolton area, we'll be selling lots. In an area that we call Jumpy Peace, we'll be selling lots. And another initiative that I am proud of, Mr. Speaker, if I must say so myself, is that I've been using my $50,000 to assist my constituents in surveying their land. We recognize, Mr. Speaker, that many persons, when you go to these small communities, Wesley, Woodford Hill, Palm Tree, my grandmother was on the land, my great-grandmother was on the land, but there is no certificate of title. So I've been using the little resources that I have in surveying these lots, working with the legal aid clinic and other persons to ensure that generations to come can develop, Mr. Speaker. Because when you now have a certificate of title with that red seal from the registry, it means that you can now go to the bank and develop not just only yourself, your children, and your community is improving. You are in a better community because persons are developing. So I heard the senator talk about the beach and it's unsafe, Mr. Speaker. Unless you live amongst the good people of West and Woodford Hill, you won't appreciate how safe the community is, Mr. Speaker. And I think he's not on the floor, so he cannot withdraw that. He cannot withdraw because he's not on the floor, Mr. Speaker. But what we have been doing as a Labour Party government is developing people. Because communities are built on people. Not roads, not buildings and structures, but people. So for me as parliamentary representative, my focus is on developing people. So the sportsmen and women of the constituency have made some suggestions and requests. So during the last fiscal year, Mr. Speaker, I am thankful with the support of the Honorable Prime Minister. We lighted the Woodford Hill playing field and just under $100,000, Mr. Speaker, in addition to the $1 million that was spent earlier in developing the grounds and the stands. And I would like to thank the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Sports, Mr. Blackmore, and Minister Roberts, Minister George, for their support, Mr. Speaker, because we now have games playing at night in Woodford Hill, and that is a significant achievement, Mr. Speaker. So in the area of Londonderry, Mr. Speaker, persons have been asking for washroom facilities. So during this fiscal year, we have a larger development plan, but we're starting with the washrooms. And Mr. Speaker, there are a number of persons from other constituencies, I'm not going to call names, that come to use the Londonderry field, Mr. Speaker. Because as the parliamentary representative, I have made it my duty to ensure that the grass is cut and the area is always neat and clean, Mr. Speaker. So persons from not just the Wesley constituency, but neighboring constituencies as well can come and use the Londonderry playing field. So, Mr. Speaker, as the minister responsible for the digital economy, I have to bring it home. So therefore, the Wesley Youth Center, Mr. Speaker, with this fiscal year, we are going to develop it into a state-of-the-art digital hub. And it's not just the equipment that we'll be putting in. I have had discussion with a number of providers, so we are going to be doing training because the international airport is coming. You're going to need network engineer, you're going to need programmers. So the intention is to have a digital hub where all day, all night, you can have persons being trained in the various programs that we'll be running from the ministry, Mr. Speaker. On Wednesday, the Honorable Minister of Finance presented the budget for the fiscal year 2023 to 2024. So Tuesday. So persons have been asking. So Parep, those new taxes, are either going to put a little thing on the alcohol, and a number of measures that we'll be putting in place. Some are either going to take more money from the credit unions, Mr. Speaker. So persons have been asking, but the opposition was celebrating that the UK put a visa restriction on Dominica. Mr. Speaker, it's the same UK Prime Minister who said the money must come from somewhere. The money must come from somewhere. So the reason for these measures in this budget is that the money must come from somewhere. So unless you have an alternative, Mr. Speaker, the money must come from somewhere. Mr. Speaker, self-serving because we want to sell our eggs, Mr. Speaker, so we only focus on ourselves. So, Mr. Speaker,
10 more minutes.
policies of our government and taking care of our people cannot be done via Facebook posts, Mr. Speaker. As minister responsible for the digital economy, I encourage these things, but when it comes to the lives of people and the development of people, that cannot be done via a Facebook post or a live or a talk show on the radio. One of the main reasons that Dominica Labour Party has been successful is that the people of Dominica trust us. We are on the ground, Mr. Speaker. We hear from them. We feel their pain. But most importantly, as we have seen in this and many other budgets, we respond with timely measures and timely interventions that impact their lives. Mr. Speaker, I would like to express my gratitude again to each and every Dominica for the faith and the confidence that they have placed in this Dominica Labour Party. And as we look forward to a better and brighter Dominica, I look forward to working with my cabinet members. And I would like to say, Mr. Speaker, I give my full unwavering support to the budget of 2023-2024. Mr. Speaker, the Wesley constituency is strong. It will remain with the Dominica Labour Party for some time. And in closing, Mr. Speaker, I would just like to inform the member for Marigot that his boundaries are from Pigwa to Londonderry. So he's not departed for the Northeast. You know, it's important, Mr. Speaker. Though he's new and my neighbor, I would like to let him understand how these things work. His boundary stop at Londonderry. So he's not departed for the Northeast. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, before our next speaker, I just wanted to just point out something to the members. If we read Standing Order 43, it says, no member shall interrupt another member except by rising to a point of order when the member is speaking, and the member shall resume his seat. And the member interrupting should actually say what the point of order is. One. Let me go to another section. 44.6. 44.6 says, no member shall impute improper motive to another member of the House or indulge in personalities. I'm bringing that, pointing this out because when a member is making a point of fact, as the speaker, as the chair, I cannot really intervene if it's a statement of fact. So if you yield, that means it's true. So I'm just pointing that out to members. On a point of fact, only a member can actually stand on a point of order, not me. So I just wanted to point that out. So I'm saying that because usually when members come to deliver, they will try to impute improper motive and say, well, you did not stop that person, so I'm imputing improper motive. So I'm just cautioning about this. Point of fact, if you think it is not true, it is untrue, you need to stand on a point of order. Yeah, let's proceed. Proceed, honorable member. Royer.
Thank you,
Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker. I'm seeking permission also to make reference to my notes as I go along.
Yeah, permission granted.
So, Mr. Speaker, it is with great joy and excitement I'm standing to support this year's budget because it is referred to as the farmer's budget, Mr. Speaker. The farmer's budget. I mean, you could hear the comments from the other side. Nothing much to say. I monitored, the talk shows. Nothing much to say either, because they're so surprised and happy with what was delivered by Dr. McIntyre. But before I get to that, Mr. Speaker, permit me to say a good evening to my constituents. Capuchin, Yard, Clifton, Cottage, Sarampai, Juliet, Lago, and other hamlets like the Alabuzin, Tatsan, Grange, Gota, Cotton Hill. And I'll speak to my constituency later on in my presentation. But I want to thank them also for the support for the past 7 months. And I want to just reaffirm my commitment to them, that I'm with them, and I'll ensure that the livelihoods of the people of Cottage will be taken care of, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I also want to thank the Minister for Finance for so clearly articulating the plans and programs for this fiscal year, which by all measure indicate that the agriculture sector is playing its part in this reset and is positioned for further transformation. Last in March, Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Prime Minister declared that we want agriculture to contribute $700 million to GDP by 2030, just to ensure that we grow the economy while ensuring food and nutrition security. But before I get to the plans and programs in this year's budget, Mr. Speaker, just allow me to put some of what was presented by Dr. McIntyre into context and give a quick status on the sector. The ECCB has reported that over the past 5 years, the sector constituted an average of 16.5% of GDP, with an economic contribution of $274 million in 2022, and is up from $175 million in 2018. Crops, as usual, dominated with 90% and contributed an average of $246 million. And the leading crops were plantains, avocados, bananas, gingers, potatoes, white potatoes, and sweet potatoes. For livestock, like poultry, rabbit meat, pork, children, they were up to 87% of primary levels and an overall contribution of $17.2 million to GDP in 2022. And as my colleague, Minister Difo, said, our fisheries have even surpassed our primary levels, Mr. Speaker. So that means we are doing well. But that did not happen overnight. It did not happen without investment. Because I heard the opposition calling for spending money, spending money, spending money. But I'm going to tell them, from Maria to now, we spent $120 million to rebound in the agricultural sector. So I'll unpack that a bit for them so they can understand and have a true appreciation as to the expenditure from Maria to now. For example, we spend over $40 million just in Farm Access Road. For the past fiscal year, we spent 20. So we saw improvements in Mupumakwato, in my good friend constituency, Grambe, Forming Casibros, Bopline Paybush. We saw in La Plain, Cuba, Kahome, Feeder Road as well, Woodford, Ilmango Gutter, and of course, La Plain had 2 interventions, and Minister Grant spoke about some intervention in his constituency. So that's just a bit, and of course, the maintenance and the upgrades in certain areas. Recently, as said earlier by two of my colleagues, we signed a $5.9 million contract to do the Sharpwell Road, which links Belpishope to Pichle, which is scheduled to complete within 4 months' time. But Mr. Speaker, the investment go on. We also spent about $5 million buying tools, equipment, and materials for farmers, Mr. Speaker, like chainsaws, brush cutters, knapsack, maize blower, cutlasses, passion fruit wire, and the list goes on. It did not stay in the warehouse. We shared all, farmers from Marigot, farmers from Salisbury, and across the island benefited from that. So we are investing, we are spending the money. Mr. Speaker, we are also distributing, as we speak, materials to build resilient pens for poultry and pigs, Mr. Speaker. But earlier on, my good friend from Marigot, the fellow from Marigot, said that Honorable Grant did not build not a pen during his tenure in Marigot. I want to correct that. Because that pilot program started in the Northeast. And when I did the Meet the Farmer store, and I went to my good friend's father's farm, that is Senator Henderson farm, I toured the farm. I saw a beautiful poultry pen. I say, wow. And I was told during the visit, it was funded under the World Bank project. Yeah, he did, yes. So, so you cannot say that Mr. Grant, Honorable Grant, did not build a pen. That's not true. Because the pilot started in the Northeast, okay? So give me that. So Mr. Speaker, to continue, so we are targeting 190 farmers in that particular program. So far, we've done 120, and we continue to distribute as we speak. But the cost of material, Mr. Speaker, is $407 million, which was procured locally around free suppliers. So the money stayed in Dominica, Mr. Speaker. Okay? So that's impact. So I'm coming, because we're spending money. You all said spending money. So we're spending money. Okay? Mr. Speaker, in addition, I'm talking post-marathon now, and sometimes capturing last fiscal year. We rehabilitated 60 shade houses. In local terms, we say greenhouse. In technical terms, we say shade house. And we procured 45 new shade houses, which we distributed around farmers from Dominica. One greenhouse, Mr. Speaker, is $13,000. So do the math. 45 by 13. Is it before you say you have the mass rolling? Yeah. So I go partner there. You understand? So we are investing. We heard of our success of our white potato program, Mr. Speaker. It did not happen overnight. Oh, give me, look. You know what I'm saying? So, Mr. Speaker, so we subsidize the farmers first to get into that. A bag of fertilizer, Mr. Speaker, at that time when we planted in November, December, was $120. We sold it to them for $50. And in addition to that, Mr. Speaker, Dexia provided packages where they would give the farmers the seeds, the chemicals, and the fertilizer up front, free of charge. And when they sell, they'll recoup. What we do. So we did all that to facilitate the program. And it yielded great results, Mr. Speaker, because we harvested 616,517 pounds among 55 acres. And 175 farmers took part in that program. So we're about 68% of our annual import oil potato, Mr. Farmer. Okay, our target is 80%, we are 68. So we are not stopping there. We are going to increase next season. Dexter will buy, instead of 2, buy 3 containers. And we're also working with ICA to bring new varieties that are more drought tolerant. So we can plant white potato year-round, Mr. Speaker. Yes, okay. Mr. Speaker, the member for Salisbury, I really wish she was there. We were at the funeral earlier on. I saw she looking kind of tired, so I understand. And she was afraid that she got a little bashing, so she did. To God. But I know she's viewing. She also said earlier that we're not checking people from Salisbury, Mount Ratchet, Colby Street, Papa Bondi. Mr. Speaker, as we speak, we are currently investing in an irrigation system in Grand Savannah, Salisbury. $634,000, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I need that Cotton Hill above Asia's house to have water. I should have that in Cotton Hill, but instead, we gave it to Salisbury. Since I was PS in Public Works, Honorable Henderson asked me for one for Grand Bay. We overlooked that. But knowing the importance of agriculture and the contribution it will make to achieving our 700 million target, we decided to invest in that system in Salisbury. And before, Mr. Speaker, as we speak, they have a system that's trying something. It's 1 day in, 1 day out. When the north side have water, they shut down the south side. That will work, seriously. That will work. So with that intervention, Mr. Speaker, we'll increase volumes, and they'll have water every day, every night, right through. So you'll have 1 day in, 1 day out. My good friend at the back there, a senator from Salisbury, her parents' family in that area, Grand Savannah, I'm so happy for them because they really do a good job. Every Saturday, they're back in Portsmouth, so I'm really happy for them, honestly. And that will help us push our short-term crops like melons, cabbage, tomatoes, which they're really good at in that particular location. Okay, Mr. Speaker? So we're very happy for that. So don't say that we're not investing and we're selfish within for own. That's not true. The Speaker, Honorable Grant make mention about incentives in agriculture, and it didn't want to call the figure, but I'm tempted to. You know why? Because when we give incentive to farmers, we're hoping that the money they save, they put it back into the farm. I'm not really satisfied is that the case. For last fiscal year, Mr. Speaker, concessions and duty-free in agriculture was $891,000, Mr. Speaker, just for agriculture. For the FAs, Minister Grant didn't want to talk. FAs alone was $735,000, Mr. Speaker. How are we not investing in agriculture, my brother? Man, going FAs is plastic, but I have news for them. I have an FA too. Martin washing my van 3 times a week downstairs ministry because it always dirty. So I mean my FA working. Yeah, and my FA is 7 years old, so it's not label I get to make just now. There, I get it 7 years ago. Okay? And if you go outside there now, you can ask D4, you'll see a crate of seasoning paper only back to deliver to Fed Market tomorrow morning. So my FA working. So the FA that spruce up with nice mark green and all this amaranth and never going to from negative, that have to change. Because if that is the reset we're looking for, that is the reset. Because if you're giving incentive, yeah, of course, no, man. I mean, PS Blackmore always dirty downstairs there, I say, PS Blackmore working. So if you're giving incentive to invest in the farm, I mean, just do the thing, man, do the thing. I mean, that's all we're asking. And we'll see a big difference in the sector and providing the commodities for sale, Mr. Speaker. Okay, so we've spoken to extension team because there's a process. For you to go to FA, the extension officer must go to the farm, do an assessment, see what you grew, and then report and make a recommendation. So we have the names. So the guys will be doing follow-ups. So when the minister of an FA and finance say, like, I know FA is going to get pressure to do them things because it's more not going. The officers will be following up regularly. So you're not going to FA just like that. When you get an FA, it approve. John Brown from Cottage and FA will do follow-ups to make sure the incentives is working and you stay in production. I don't know law about revoking things. I know that. But all I'm saying that we will monitor the FA going forward because I think people are abusing that FA system and that need to stop. Okay? No, we cut off every long time. That cut off. Yeah, that cut off. Okay? So Mr. Speaker, that's just a snapshot or some of the investments and incentives, you know, with the last fiscal year and how we build up to where we are. But I met a few persons in the speaker and asking, but Roland, how are you guys going to meet that 700 million target by 2030? So Mr. Speaker, with your permission, let me just unpack that number for them a bit so they can see how we're going to get there. I'm going to unpack that. So what we did, we broken up our targets into subsectors. Okay? So for crops, which is the leading subsector into agriculture, we're saying 73% of that will come from crops. From livestock, we look at 10.4%. For fisheries, we look at 7.8, but we if we go in there, so we'll get all 10 and 15 from before. Agro-processing, we look at 7, and forestry, we look at 9. Mr. Speaker, we further projected our targets annually, or we're going to build up to 2030. So we're saying, December 2022, we are 274. We are projecting that December 2023 will be at 297 million. At the end of 2024, we'll be at 342 million. At the end of 2025, we'll be at 412 million. At the end of 2026, we'll be at 485 million. In 2027, 566. In 2028, 645. In 2029, 711. Look, I haven't passed the 700 already.
Yeah.
And by 2030, we're around $750 million. Mr. Speaker. And that was just based on baseline data and projection in growth, what you have seen from Mara to now. Okay? And I'll explain further, Mr. Speaker. So by 2030, we are saying that we fill that gap of $426 million, which is possible and achievable to me. We'll be contributing to agriculture from 21% to GDP by 2030. At one point, we were 25 in the 80s. So that's gettable. So that's a the number is looking big, but achievable. So, Mr. Speaker, how are we going to get there? For the past 6 months, we did what we call Meet the Farmer's Tour, where we went out, we visited farms around the island in the 7 agricultural regions, and we ended with town halls, where we had concerns for farmers, what they want to see, what are the challenges. And coming up from that, the 3 major challenges that they told us they were facing is reliable farm labor, access to farm labor, and reliable farm labor, farm access, and cost of inputs, Mr. Speaker. So, considering the challenges, and of course, initiative by the ministry and government policy, we come up with some plans and programs, Mr. Speaker, which is reflected in this year's budget. So it was a mix of listening to the farmers, our in-house initiatives, and government policy. We build our program for this fiscal year. So I'll walk you through some of our programs so you'll see what we're looking at and how we're going to get to that 700 million target. So our budget for this year is $56 million, which I'm happy up from last year, so there's an increase in that. But we programmatize our interventions for this fiscal year. So we don't have projects, we have programs. So we started this year and we're going from this year to 2030. So if you look into your estimates under D32, you'll see a nice caption, Sustainable Crop Development Program. So basically, Mr. Speaker, that's speaking to the expansion of agriculture in Dominica. So under that, first we're going to establish what we call distribution centers to facilitate ease of services to our farmers in the different regions. Most times we have things like spray oil, we have things like the fungicides, we have inputs to distribute on our programs, and farmers have to come right to Rosa for that. You know, we're going to bring that close to them. So in this fiscal year, we'll set up 2 initial stages, one in the north, one in the northeast, so we can bring our services closer to the farmers in terms of providing inputs to the farmers. In expansion again, Mr. Speaker, we'll provide 50 greenhouse structures which will distribute to farmers across the islands. But Mr. Speaker, I'm going to, because from tomorrow I know we're going to get phone calls. I want a greenhouse. But when people hear greenhouse giving or sharing, it thing just take them. It's like, but I keep telling of greenhouse, not a flower pot. Not everybody that can have a greenhouse. Because as we speak, Mr. Speaker, we have over 60 abandoned greenhouses on island. So if these greenhouses were under cultivation, we'll have reduced most of the stuff that we import in, which I'll come to in a while. So I'm saying to say we are targeting serious farmers. You don't wash your foot and come. We'll have clear criteria that you need to meet in order to benefit from those programs. Good, Mr. Speaker. In addition to that, Mr. Speaker, in the spirit of modernization and to introduce technology to the sector, we're going to invest in systems for irrigation and what we call hydroponic systems. That will allow us to produce off-season. We know we had a hard and dry season earlier this year, and we lost quite a bit of produce out there. I suffered from that myself as a farmer. So we're going to see how much land we can irrigate in this fiscal year, so that we'll reduce the shortages of commodities on the market during the dry season, Mr. Speaker. Further, we'll procure small farm equipment, and not just small, we will procure some heavy as well. We recently signed an agreement with China, and they're going to provide us with small machineries and equipment to include tractors to do tilling and plowing. And the numbers are huge, Mr. Speaker. So by end of this year, we'll be in a position to have at least one tractor to till in every agricultural region and power tiller to serve all the farmers across the island, Mr. Speaker. So what it does, it will push the wipe out of the program, and the issues we have with farm labor, Mr. Speaker, it will help us solve some of the labor shortage issues that we have, Mr. Speaker. So that's coming. But we're taking that so serious, Mr. Speaker. We are going to reactivate our engineering unit. When I was a young executive officer, we had what we call an agricultural engineering unit, where all these vehicles were servicing, we had the tractors being serviced, we had the excavator being serviced, and they will be one responsible for distributing the equipment from Roseau to the different parts of the island. So we're going to bring that back. We're going to bring that back. Because with investment of millions into farm equipment, I cannot just put that in 1 mile or put that in Grambent in my back. I need a proper system for that monitored, maintain, and distribute, Mr. Speaker. So that one is a gift from China, and I want to thank them again for that. The unit itself, Mr. Speaker, will not only be for machineries, but in our thrust to have lands irrigated and greenhouse shed mounted and our feeder road expansion program ongoing, that unit will be also responsible for that, to take care of all what I just mentioned, Mr. Speaker. And we have earmarked somebody to head that unit already, and we're bringing support staff to have that going, Mr. Speaker. So that's our idea for our engineering unit, Mr. Speaker. Yes, that was in Buffett State. Yeah, man. So, in terms of feeder road, Mr. Speaker, we'll continue to invest in feeder road. So last fiscal year, we spent 20 million. Over the next 2 fiscal years, we're going to spend the next 20. Okay? Yes. And you see, my friend from Salisbury is not there. Because Wednesday next week, we'll be on a site visit to the Kahum Cuba Road. There's a section that fills in Erica, where we join Cuba to Kahum. I'm happy to announce, Mr. Speaker, that work will commence on that section within the next 2 weeks, Mr. Speaker. So next Wednesday, myself, the St. Joe, PS Public Works, PS Agriculture, and the farmers from the area will do a site visit with a contractor, with Mr. Esprit, so we can commence work on that section, so that farmers during the rainy periods can go without any issues to the farmers, Mr. Speaker. Salisbury farmers, St. Joe farmers, we are going to bridge that and connect that for you all. So that's what we're investing in agriculture, to make sure you get to your farm safely and you pull out your produce without mechanical damage. That's what we're talking about. Okay? Mr. Speaker, we have what we call an inland reception and distribution center in 1 mile. No, not in Longhouse, sorry. That's what we have our current office. We have some issues. Dexia give us a little shelter. We have to move our current officers to the parking house. So we are now going to have that rehabilitated. So that center will turn to the housing for quarantine, for food safety inspections, everything, but that will be done in this fiscal year. It's urgent because we must issue quarantine certificates and make sure food safety issues are dealt with before we move our produce out of the island. But the exciting part, Mr. Speaker, is the level of expansion we're going to do over the next 2 fiscal years. In terms of coconut, Mr. Speaker, there's a high demand for coconut butter. We know that coconut butter is a big business now. And unfortunately, we are struggling with what we call the red palm mite, which is affecting our coconut production. So within the next 2 fiscal years, Mr. Speaker, we will be importing tolerant varieties and dwarf varieties of coconuts. We're targeting 52,000 coconuts over the next 2 years. And as we speak, we have 13,000 in a container which will be arriving in the next 4 weeks in Dominica, Mr. Speaker, to distribute to farmers who are serious, who has the land. Don't ask me for 10 plants, We're talking about acreage. You have 5 acres, you have 15 acres, you want to join the program, we low assessment, while quality is suitable, we move in. So we go in, our target is 52,000, Mr. Speaker, for the financial year. With the support from Cardi, we have 13,000 on the way, which will land in here within the next 4 weeks, and we'll start this distribution as soon as we have our industry organized to have that done, Mr. Speaker. We have already identified the location and farmers, and we're going to move that, Mr. Speaker. In addition to that, Mr. Speaker, by September of this year, we'll be landing 40,000 tissue culture, banana, and plantain plants, Mr. Speaker. That's for us to push our planting and banana expansion program. Okay? And we are aware of the issues we are faced with the banana planters with the black sigatoka. But we are not satisfied with the management, honestly. I mean, I came to the ministry, we did an assessment. The way it is now, we have spray teams going out. I mean, them guys are not doing it effectively, farmers are complaining. So we have a new management regime we are going to introduce, Mr. Speaker, for the management of black sigatoka. And that includes empowering our farmers with the necessary tools and equipment to spray on their own. That is the reset. So no longer a farmer will be waiting for the spray team, and the spray team is showing up. We'll train you if you're not trained. We'll give you the mist blower. We'll make sure the oil and the fungicides are readily available in the center that I spoke to earlier, close to your doorsteps, and you put your cycle on time. Minimum cycle for effective control should be 15 cycles, Mr. Speaker. And farmers have not skipped because the spray teams are not showing up. Okay? So we're going to use a strategy. Our plant production guys will monitor with the banana unit to make sure we have effective coverage, because investing in 40,000 plants and don't have a regime to manage black sigatoka don't make sense. So they'll be going hand in hand, and we're going to move on that very, very quick, Mr. Speaker, because we have markets for bananas and plantains, which I'll speak to a little later on. Mr. Speaker, as I'm planting materials, with the level of expansion that we want to do, we need to have planting material readily available. But we have, as we speak, a capacity issue at the plant production stations. So we have $2.7 million earmarked to build new stations, Mr. Speaker, in Portsmouth, Woodford Hill, and Londonderry, and a plane, Mr. Speaker, to make sure we have enough throughput to the station. I'll give you some figures. And what we also did, we are not building to do everything. We're going to have this station specialized in particular commodities, so it'll be more effective. So for example, in Portsmouth, we're going to focus on vegetable seedlings. So on any 1 year, we'll have a throughput of 600,000 seedlings, and exotic fruit trees, about 48,000 in any 1 year. In Woodford Hill, we're going to focus on tree crops, such as avocados, coconut, mangoes, and cocoa. We're targeting 330,000 in any 1 year in Woodford Hill. In Londonderry, we look at bananas, plantain, pineapple, passion fruit, and citrus. We're looking at 310,000 in any 1 year. And in Lapland, we do root crops there, dashing, yams, tiny, and sweet potatoes. We're targeting 300,000 in any 1 year. So that's the level of investment and impact we're looking to create in the sector. And that now will translate to the increase in acreages on the farm. So we have targets for that too, I mean, I'm working with targets, I'm not blind. and I put my target, then I head in target. So you're not just talking for talking sake. You have figures and you work to it. So what I just spoke about now, by 2025,
30 more minutes.
thank you, Mr. Speaker. By 2025, we should see an expansion in root crops by 200 acres, in wild potatoes by at least 50 acres, in tree crops by at least 400 acres, banana planting an increase by at least 600 acres, and coconuts by at least 1,000 acres, Mr. Speaker, by 2025. That's our target. Okay? So, under the crop expansion program, Mr. Speaker, we have a little sub-project we coined nicely. We call input substitution. So that's my baby. That's the one that I'm going to pamper in my tenure as Minister of Agriculture, because there's huge potential for that. I'm saying that to say, Mr. Speaker, data from 2022 revealed that we are importing 1.5 million worth of vegetables alone. So the supermarkets bringing in a value of $1.5 million worth of broccoli, cauliflower, carrots. And I'll go further to give some figures, because I deliberately went for them. So, cantaloupe, last year they imported sale value over 38,000. Pineapple, over $10,000 worth. Watermelon, Papa Moldy, $69,000 worth. Mr. Speaker, I had a van of watermelon, and I looking for sale. And I went by the supermarket and I called the name. And they told me the reason they're going to take it from me, because they have any container coming down. I mean, that cannot be right. We have farmers from Salisbury. Salisbury is known to be the specialist in watermelon. I try a thing, have a van, you're going to take it because you have watermelon coming up, and I agree with Minister Henderson that we need to look at that closely and put a system in place where they'll be deterred for bringing in them stuff. Anything one farmers grow here, we should be given priority for sale at our local supermarket, Mr. Speaker. Okay? Beets, Mr. Speaker, 18,000. Cabbage, over $76,000 worth of cabbage came in last year. Carrots, $115,000 worth of carrots came in. Cauliflower, over 14,000. Sweet corn, 11,000. Sweet pepper, that's the bell pepper, over 22,000. Tomatoes, over 10,000. And white potato, over 800,000. But we're going to tune into that figure for potatoes, so it's fine. So that's evident, Mr. Speaker, that there's a demand for fresh produce locally. But the farmers to have to enter, they need to be consistent in supplying, and we need to supply this market with quality stuff.
Yeah.
But we'll hold your hands
True.
and get you to that level with our program that we're initiating. Okay? So, we are playing, Mr. Speaker, a program working closely with trade and Dexia and the supermarkets. We have a technical working group which is chaired by my PS and PS Savre, where we'll identify the priority crops. So far, we've identified the leafy vegetables, which is broccoli, cauliflower, carrots, tomatoes, and my potatoes. In the first instance, we'll work with them. We'll provide the farmers who are willing to participate with the irrigation systems, the greenhouses, and ensure that they have the contract farming system between themselves and the supermarket, so that we can run a pilot this fiscal year to see how successful we are in reducing only imports of fresh produce by the supermarkets. So we're going to work with them, not coming down on them, but working with the supermarkets to see how we can have a program, a holistic program to address that issue, because it's serious and we need to cue into that money that's coming in there, the value of produce coming in, Mr. Speaker. So that's our plan for import substitution, Mr. Speaker. If I move to livestock quickly, Mr. Speaker, that's again exciting. We are going to do things that have never been done before. This fiscal year, we're going to introduce what we call artificial insemination. I know Mr. Blackmore love that term, but basically, Mr. Speaker, it's about importing semen, and what's even more happy about that, Mr. Speaker, is that we already have the facility at the Londonderry livestock farm, Mr. Speaker. It's there. We have the liquid nitrogen, we have the equipment. So all we're waiting on now, Mr. Speaker, is for when we bring in the Cubans, which I'll talk to a little later on, to give us a little refresher, our technical refresher, so we can go into AI, Mr. Speaker. So the benefit, Mr. Speaker, we can have high level traits. Like, for example, if you want to have a breed that is very prolific, you can identify the semen that can provide the young ones like that. You want to provide a breed that provide meat, we can do that. Disease resistance, we can do that. So you just basically select the trait that you want, and you do the procedure right here and get it out, Mr. Speaker. So that's what we're going to move into, introducing technology and innovation into agriculture, Mr. Speaker. So we're going to have that done. And we'll start with goats, sheep, rabbits, and pigs, Mr. Speaker, in this fiscal year. Mr. Speaker, in bringing the services better and closer to our farmers, that's livestock farmers, we are going to introduce around 4 livestock offices, veterinary offices for the regions. So we'll start with the south, the west, the north, and the southeast, Mr. Speaker. As we speak, we only have 1 office in Roseau to serve all the farmers around the island. So we're going to go out district with the offices so we can bring the service closer to the farmers, Mr. Speaker. So that's the next thing we're doing. And of course, we'll continue distributing our materials for our livestock pens to house our pigs and our poultry. And of course, we'll provide subsidies for feeds because we know of the inflation, the increase in the feed prices have really deterred more farmers and it increased cost of production. So under our programs, we're going to have special subsidies for feeds to bring down the cost so farmers can benefit from it, Mr. Speaker. And with all the investment, Mr. Speaker, coupled with the work that we're going to do at the abattoir, which I'll speak to in a while, we're expecting that we can reduce the meat import bill by 15% by 2025, Mr. Speaker. So all this again, we're setting targets, not just investing for investing sake. We have targets and make sure most of the money stay right here in Dominica. A big one, Mr. Speaker, our farmers from Salisbury and northeastern La Plain is within the year is a farm labor issue. We have about 168 applications for visas for persons who that want to bring persons on to work on the farm. We are reviewing this, but we did for the past couple months, myself, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, and the Minister for Labor, we met with a technical working group, and they reviewed the issue of farm labor, and they've come up with recommendations, which I've submitted a white paper to the Prime Minister and to my colleagues for review. And one of the recommendations is to have a structured farm migrant labor program, Mr. Speaker, with some guidance from IMO. So we're going to do things differently. So it's not just say you're sending for somebody, let's say Cuba, for example, to come and say, work on a farm. That person has to be a farmer. That person will have special interviews to be done. So we're going to put the program tight to make sense, and then we'll have that program on the road sometime later this year after we've got all our eyes and crossed our T's and put all the systems in place. But I just want to tell the farmers that we're working with them. We've heard the cry, and we know we have a labor issue shortage, and we're going to solve that pretty soon, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, one of the things that we are planning to do in this fiscal year is our agricultural investment unit. You've heard the PM on several occasions asking for that to be reactivated. We've done that. We brought in a coordinator, and that person will be solely responsible for commercializing agriculture in Dominica. That thing, that backyard garden thing, and man just planting 1 or 2 fig, we're not in that. We're going big. We want to commercialize, we want to trade, we will make agriculture as an industry. So, Mr. Cyril, who we brought in a couple months ago, is charged with that responsibility, and some of our key investment, he'll have oversight over, like the coffee plant, the culture lab, our central livestock farm, the abattoir, all those are investment that I'm going. You'll have oversight over the Mr. Speaker, and we're looking for great things into that. Close to my heart again, Mr. Speaker, is youth in agriculture. I was one of the founders of NAYA in 2003, I reckon. One of the founders, yeah. And Honorable Henderson was by minister at that time. What we did in March, we revamped NAYA to make it Enterprise NAYA, and we have a lot of plans and programs for them. But just to be short, what we're saying, every investment that as a government we are making in agriculture, we want to ensure that 15% minimum goes to young farmers, under 35, minimum. And we make anything attractive, we're modernizing the stuff, and of course we're going to have an agricultural desk at our division for young persons, for a youth in agriculture desk, for a young person to take care of the issues confronting young farmers in Dominica, Mr. Speaker. Something that was never spoken of before in terms of agriculture, but when I came to the ministry, I saw it written on our portfolio, agriculture education. So I did my research and I said, what's going on? But we'll take it by phases. So this fiscal year, we're going to focus on the primary school, Mr. Speaker. I'm not happy with the level of agriculture at the primary school. I think the children are not involved enough. We just have a few schools at primary school level doing agriculture, Mr. Speaker. So this fiscal year, we'll work with the 4-H clubs to have some model farms in around 5 schools. We will work with Ministry of Education because we need to do some curriculum review and edits and restructuring for the primary schools. Agriculture is just part of the science program, but I think as an agricultural-based economy, it needs to be stood alone in the primary school, Mr. Speaker. So that we can discuss further with education, but I think that is the way that we should go. Even not too much science, but at least practical agriculture. Every school should have a school garden. Even though you don't have yard to do it or land, do it by a neighboring farmer or by some student father. But literally should have the sower seed, plant something and let's do the stuff. I mean, they need to know what they're eating. You know what I'm saying? So we're saying that we're going to push hard on that, bring the message to the schools, extension will work with them. We have an education officer that works with us, agriculture youth officer that with us at the gardens at our new headquarters now. She will please focus on that, but we're taking in strides. So this fiscal year we'll focus on the primary schools, and in the future we'll go to secondary and tertiary level. But exciting to that, Mr. Speaker, we are going to introduce what we call a Minister's National Award on Agriculture for the best student in every primary school in Dominica, Mr. Speaker. Actually, I studied in my constituency this year. I did it with the Clifton Primary School and the Samba Primary School. We did our plaque. In the graduation, we handed over. So we are extending that to all primary schools in Dominica to identify the best students with agricultural science, so we can the Minister can award or provide that award to them during graduation, Mr. Speaker. So that's just to motivate them. And of course, the plaque will come with a little pocket or something now, a little thing so they can enjoy the summer as a form of motivation. Okay? Yeah, and tools as well. So, but of course, all that, Mr. Speaker, we cannot do it alone. Not as the Ministry of Government, so we have our partners, our bilateral partners. So all that falls on a technical cooperation. So you've seen on the media, we've signed a technical cooperation with Cuba a couple months ago. And I'm happy to announce that the Cuban will be here in September. We're going to have around 20 experts from Cuba to assist us in pushing our programs as we work towards our target. And we're going to assist in multiple areas, in plant protection, in propagation, in livestock, just all disciplines in agriculture. They're going to have an expert assisting our guys, helping us solve issues, and moving the sector forward. So we're very happy for that. We also signed the country program framework with FAO, which guarantees us support from FAO until 2025. And of course, our continuous support from ICA, WOOS, and the Japanese, and CARDI, and other agencies that let us support throughout the year. And of course, the World Bank program was funding most of our interventions, which I spoke to a bit earlier. So at this point, Speaker, I just want to thank my PS and his team at the ministry. I'm the director, Mr. Bruman, Mr. Anselm, our head of extension, Kian, and all the agricultural staff for the work that have been done over the years. And for this fiscal year, coming into the ministry, they've embraced me. I worked with them before, so I'm not new to them. And I feel for some reason, them guys have rebooted. I feel the energy, Mr. Speaker. They want to see the transformation, they're working. They're not getting tired, When they have meetings, you can feel the vibes. They don't want to leave, so that's a good sign. So I will make sure, I take care of the guys and thanks for the support and the continued effort in the transformation. Also, Mr. Speaker, special thanks to Mr. Kevin Stevenson and the PIU, the livelihoods team, for providing that management of the World Bank funds for most of our interventions. I want to tell them, continue doing that, and they have my support. But importantly, the farmers. We could not do it without the farmers. They're the ones who are on the farm every day, ensuring that we have food and nutrition security on island, Mr. Speaker. So the farmers gonna go unnoticed as well. In terms of marketing, Minister Henderson spoke about that earlier, so I won't rehash that. Just want to say, Mr. Speaker, we providing all that support to farmers. One of the also may ask, where are the markets? I mean, just quickly, we have markets in Antigua as we speak. But let's start home first, because the data I showed earlier just justifies we have domestic market right here. So we don't have to go out for too much. So let's tune into what the fresh markets and the S-marks and which is importing, and we'll be fine. But in Antigua, Mr. Speaker, there's demand now for 2,000 boxes of plantain weekly. We cannot supply. In Barbados, we have demands for 2,000 boxes of bananas weekly. We cannot demand. The BVI, USVI, we cannot supply. So markets are there. I know Dexia have a mission coming up to ensure that they contact our main buyers to cement some contracts. So that will come. But I just want to encourage farmers that don't be daunted asking whether the markets are there. Plant, we are supporting, and let's produce so that we can meet our targets, as I spoke to earlier, Mr. Speaker. But quickly, Mr.
14
Speaker.
more minutes, 14 more minutes.
That's fine, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. But quickly, Mr. Speaker, I want to link agriculture to some of the sectors, Mr. Speaker, and some of our major investments. Tourism. I felt happy when my colleague minister announced that she's looking at 5,000, is 500,000 by 2030. Yes, overnight. That is endless for agriculture. Increased consumption, increased demand, more markets, farmers are going to sell more. Okay, so that's plain. So that's an easy link to make. I don't have to explain that too much. Mr. Speaker, the international airport. Most times we try to justify the airport. We speak about tourists coming in, but we don't speak about what can go out. In St. Vincent, Mr. Speaker, when they build the airport, in a matter of 2 years, the fresh produce export increased 5-fold. And St. Vincent gonna plant food like us. So imagine a farmer from Marigot, Wesley, Woodfordale. Within 12 hours of harvest, your cabbage can be in a supermarket shelf in Florida. Within 12 hours. You go in the morning, my friend, 6 o'clock, you cut your cabbage, you wash it, pack that. Margaret come in next morning, that in Publix way, in Fort Lauderdale, just like that. Imagine that. So I'm saying, it's going to open opportunities for new markets, emerging markets, and Dominica produce always the best. Naturally, we have a longer shelf life, so tell me Dominica, they buying that. So we need now to be prepared. I'm saying that to Mr. Speaker. I want the farmers of Woodfordale, Wesley, and Marigot to stand up and defend the airport, Mr. Speaker. I want to hear them. Because they're the ones that are going to benefit the most because they're closer. Because when I get from Cochrane and one with my cabbage, they be for me, They're the closest. You'll need to defend the airport. Is going to bring a lot of revenue in terms of agriculture. And looking at, and not just post-construction, Even as we're doing construction, as Honorable Grant said, consumption has increased. So the sales for fresh produce will also increase. So let's don't lose sight of that. The Speaker, I cannot mention the marina and Minister of Tourism. Right in my constituency, right there in the joint cabinets there. That's my constituency, the marina. When it opened, the same opportunity. During construction, same thing. Increased consumption. So okay, so we're linking the vibes right there. And the other thing, the Speaker, as a marina, I'm so happy for the opportunity because it's going to create employment right there in my constituency. Me and my colleague from Portsmouth right there. We're going to open some opportunities for work and people to get employed right there. In addition to that, The American Canadian School of Medicine is the same thing. We have what we call the shacks in Portsmouth there. When I was a young extension officer and Ross was Ross self, we were selling bell peppers and tomatoes and lettuce every day. Imagine when the school pick up and we have, hundreds of students right there, is more opportunity again for farmers to sell commodity. And of course, employment for people in enough as well, Mr. Speaker. So that's why I endorsed all this project. I'm just happy to say I'm part of an administration that is bringing so many good things in Dominica, Mr. Speaker. So as I'm on that, Mr. Speaker, I'm going to move quickly to my Cottage constituency, Mr. Speaker. The lovely people of Cottage. I want to thank them again for the support for the past 7 months. They've been very good to me. And working closely with the village council and my party groups and the executive and other village organizations, Mr. Speaker, we were able to achieve a few things over the past 7 months. For example, we were able to construct a retaining wall. That was a long-awaited retaining wall with a tune of around $50,000. We were able to do all our feeder roads, to do the dredging, the excavation, the grubbing, cleaning of drains. We did Capuchin, Bena, Kukui, Valley at about $40,000, Mr. Speaker. We were able to install solar lights between Clifton and Capuchin. They're kind of dark, so we installed around 25 solar lights. Thanks to Mr. Luke Honoré and the town for lending support in doing that, and our NEP who dug all the holes, Mr. Speaker. So I'm very happy for their support on that. We will do some dredging in preparation for hurricane season, and of course we completed the Pierce Jetty light. We have it lights on them, and also we rehabilitated the jetty in Tukari and also installed some lights as well. In housing, Mr. Speaker, we're able to complete a house in Seven Pie, and we're doing a second in Clifton as we speak. And we participated in the hurricane type program from Honorable Skerritt Initiative, and we're able to distribute over 3,000 hurricane ties in preparation for hurricane season. In terms of digital economy, Mr. Speaker, we commissioned 2 hubs in the constituency, one in Capuchin and one in Clifton. And we have trained persons already, Mr. Speaker, and we also invited persons from Lago to a special training exclusively for them at the calls, where they will train in different aspects of IT, Mr. Speaker. The primary school children from Clifton and Capuchin, they were all given devices, Mr. Speaker, and in the new school term, we'll be giving devices to the students from Lago who attend the primary schools in Roosevelt Douglas Primary School and in St. John's School, Mr. Speaker. In sports, our friends in diaspora, family and friends in diaspora, procured a brand new lawnmower for us, costing about $6,000. That was landed, and we handed over to the sports committee, who now is using it to manicure the playing field. I want to thank them for that. I mean, $6,000. Who will give you that, Mr. Speaker? So they were so kind to lend that support to us, and we have a brand new mower at Cottage, Mr. Speaker. In small business, we're going to get some support from a small business unit. A few persons got grant assistance from there. In agriculture, we were able to support farmers in installing greenhouses and putting new greenhouse plastics, and also supported our farmers group in doing white potatoes for the first time in the constituency, Mr. Speaker, and they were very successful doing that as well. In tourism, Mr. Speaker, working with DDA, Ministry of Tourism, we launched the seafood lime in Tukari, which have taken off, doing very well, and now they're so kind, they provided us with a consultant in the name of former Parliament President Paul to assist us to make that lime sustainable, so the persons benefiting from that can invest and do it on a monthly basis. I want to thank the Ministry of Tourism for that, Mr. Speaker. In health, Mr. Speaker, the Southern Pipe Health Center is completed, thanks to the former Power Rep who initiated it, and now it's completed. And it should be open in the first quarter of this fiscal year, so we are looking forward to that, Mr. Speaker. And just to close off on some intervention, Mr. Speaker, we will be able to create about 50 new jobs from January to now in the constituency, Mr. Speaker. And let's say average 50 by a minimum salary of $1,000, $50,000 in new jobs, monthly, circulating in the economy in the constituency, Mr. Speaker. So we're so happy for that, and thanks to the PM for his approval for most of the jobs that we're able to create. So looking forward, Mr. Speaker, Some of our plans for the constituency for the fiscal year, we'll continue our home renovation program. In the first phase, we'll complete about 10 homes we are targeting quickly, and we'll continue the rehabilitation of the Lambert Plain Field. Of course, the water system in Cotton Hill, that will be upgraded. There are a few homes at the higher levels that do not have potable water because of the elevation. That we will take care of this financial year. And we'll also construct some footpaths in Lago and continue our lighting programs. The Hill Giro Feeder Road in Clifton, that will be done as well. Our Clifton Back Road. I'm looking at the Minister for Community Development. That too we will do. I'm saying it loud, especially the Clifton Back Road. That too we'll do. And some really good at 7 Pine. We'll have that done. The restaurants in Canna Park, Minister of Tourism, that too we should complete the restaurant in Canna Park. Started for a while, and we had some delays, but we're going to resume construction pretty soon. And of course, Mr. Speaker, one of my pet projects for this fiscal year, we're going to have an agriculture innovation and entrepreneurship program, where we're going to locate minimum 10 greenhouses, one location, identify young farmers, a young person interested in agriculture, bring them to the site, train them in practical agriculture, train them in management, train them in marketing, train them in seed production, and they will grow stuff in the greenhouse, market, and earn their money. When they're satisfied that they can manage a greenhouse on their own, we'll win them out on their own with a greenhouse and bring in new persons in the program. So that's my program we're going to pilot in my constituency. And once it's taken off, we'll move to the other constituencies to ensure that we spread the program around. So that is what I can do. And of course, working with my fisheries colleague, we are going to introduce mariculture in Tukari, where we're going to grow simas. We already organized a young group of guys to grow simas. The FAO consultant was right in Tukari. Be careful. The FAO consultant came in Tukari, did the assessment, and by all measures or results, Tukari is very conducive to do simas, and we're going to introduce mariculture right there in Tukari. So, Mr. Speaker, with this intervention, Mr. Speaker, I would again want to lend my fullest support to this budget, which I have no doubt will transform the life of Dominicans. Mr. Speaker, I wish to say to the farmers of Dominica that I'm committed to the task of leading the government efforts in agriculture. They can count on me, and I have full confidence in them, Mr. Speaker. I shall continue to remain accessible to all of them. I'm excited about the sector, Mr. Speaker, and I'm excited about the opportunities agriculture has for Dominica in transforming lives, Mr. Speaker. So to my people in Cottage, I want to tell them thank you for the support. I'm looking forward to work with them in this fiscal year. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much.
Yes, Honorable Lloyd.
Thank
You may
very much, Mr.
proceed.
Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I also rise to add my 2 cents and support the budget estimates before this honorable House. Mr. Speaker, as I stand, allow me to congratulate all of my fellow colleagues on this side of this honorable House who has presented before me. Mr. Speaker, I must say that they have all done a stupendous job. Mr. Speaker, and these are some very big shoes to fill. And I believe that this budget could have been concluded after the presentation of Honorable Henderson. Mr. Speaker, permit me to refer to my notes during the course of my presentation.
Permission granted.
Mr. Speaker, I stand before this august assembly with a profound sense of honor and responsibility as we gather to discuss and present a comprehensive vision for the development of Dominica, of course, inclusive of the St. Joseph constituency. And Mr. Speaker, as a parliamentary representative of this noble constituency, I am deeply committed to the welfare and development of my people. Mr. Speaker, I firmly believe that the strategic budget estimates provide unique opportunities for transformative progress and development in my constituency. Mr. Speaker, permit me the opportunity to extend my deepest gratitude and respect for the member for Salibia for his unwavering support and guidance throughout my tenure serving as parliamentary secretary in the Ministry for Environment, Rural Modernization, Kalinago Upliftment, and Constituency Empowerment. Mr. Speaker, this government has maintained its presence and support to every constituency in Dominica, Mr. Speaker. Irrespective of what the pundits, and when I say the pundits, I mean the opposition forces may say, that they are, or their constituencies being oppressed, Mr. Speaker, we have continued to equally distribute the resources of Dominica equally among every constituency in Dominica, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I stand and I say this confidently when I say that there is no government who has been as benevolent as this current government administration, Mr. Speaker. And I say this sincerely, Mr. Speaker, and confidently, Mr. Speaker. Our benevolence, our level of benevolence remain unparalleled, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the constituency empowerment faction continues to contribute or to provide equipments and financial contributions to every constituency, Mr. Speaker, where needed. Mr. Speaker, we have listened to the cries of members of parliament. And not just listen to the cries, but I am pleased to announce, Mr. Speaker, that just a few months ago, we have increased the constituency office stipends by at least 100%, Mr. Speaker, in order to meet rental fees and operational costs, Mr. Speaker, and also stipends for office employees. Mr. Speaker, it was not only done for 19 constituencies, Mr. Speaker, it was done for all 21 constituencies, Mr. Speaker. So I don't understand, I believe it is a very malicious thing to say that there are constituencies being oppressed, Mr. Speaker, unless we don't know what the definition of oppression means, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, every resource that we have here in Dominica is being shared equally among every constituency in this country. Mr. Speaker, we gladly accept the $2.1 million allocation to the constituency empowerment faction of our ministry. Mr. Speaker, with this addition, we move to number one, the implementation of small infrastructural and road projects in every constituency, inclusive of Marigot and Salisbury. Number two, collaborate with the Ministry of Education and other relevant ministries to implement mentorship programs and skill training programs. Number three, host frequent formal and informal discussions on conversations of relevant importance and national importance, Mr. Speaker. Number four, collaborate with the National Youth Council of Dominica to strengthen and increase youth groups in every constituency. And number five, initiate award ceremonies for key constituency individuals. Mr. Speaker, irrespective of a financially challenged world, this government continues to play its part to assist and develop the people of Dominica. So, Mr. Speaker, we have taken the onus on ourselves to play our parts to continue to contribute to this constituency and the constituents in order to foster and bolster growth and development, Mr. Speaker, among every constituency in our country. Mr. Speaker, I stand as a proud advocate for the further perpetuation of the National Employment Program, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we have started seeing tremendous results from the extension of the scope of work, increase in stipends, and increase in working hours of the cleanup and beautification interns, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it brings me great joy to know that I have contributed to the total NEP interns in my constituency, which is now 253, by the addition of 60 interns, or 23.7%, Mr. Speaker, in just merely 7.5 months, Mr. Speaker. This budget supports the idea of equipping citizens with an opportunity to earn an honest living, Mr. Speaker, to learn new skills, and very importantly, to graduate from an internship program. Mr. Speaker, the increase in budgetary allocations with regards to the National Employment Program demonstrates this government's commitment to the development of the livelihoods of Dominicans everywhere, and of course, Mr. Speaker, to curb the unemployment rate in Dominica. I continue to praise the efforts of the NEP teams, of my NEP teams in the St. Joseph constituencies, and that of the supervisors, Mr. Speaker, for the assiduous efforts in keeping our constituency clean, Mr. Speaker. During this fiscal year, this new fiscal year, we will move to reconstruct the NEP in the St. Joseph constituency in an effort to develop priority areas, Mr. Speaker, within the constituency. We shall prioritize caretakers and the cleanup and beautification aspect of the NEP. We shall pay scrupulous attention to our elderly, Mr. Speaker, and in a way that we can be more sympathetic to their situations and their individual needs. It is our intention to negotiate, to engage in maintenance and a small project sprue, Mr. Speaker. These individuals will be engaged after undergoing or after graduating from mentorship programs or skill training programs implemented by the parliamentary representative or by the government, Mr. Speaker. These individuals will focus mainly on small community projects, something as simple as replacing a door or solving electrical issues within residential homes or constructing a farm feeder road, Mr. Speaker. And I believe that every substrata, every facet of society stands to benefit with this plan, Mr. Speaker, because not only will our young people garner the skills and expertise that they would need, but our community will also develop as a result. Talk about quid pro quo, Mr. Speaker. We continue to extend our gratitude to the Honorable Prime Minister for his perspicacity in birthing such an economically impactful project, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, you know, we have spoken a lot about health, Mr. Speaker, and the opposition forces would relentlessly campaign against our health facilities here in Dominica. Mr. Speaker, but isn't this the same opposition that has preached doom and gloom and spoke to how 15,000 people are going to die as a result of COVID-19? And isn't it the same healthcare system that has protected the people of Dominica from COVID-19 just a few years ago, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, we have to be appreciative of the things that we do have. Now, I do understand that we have our fair share of challenges here in Dominica. But which country doesn't, Mr. Speaker? You go to America, there are Americans traveling to England, traveling to Australia, different parts of the world to seek healthcare, Mr. Speaker. Now, I'm not saying that we have to remain or we have to be complacent where healthcare is concerned. Yes, we have to seek to develop. But, Mr. Speaker, how are we going to develop our healthcare system when we have an opposition relentlessly lamenting, Mr. Speaker, on our shortcomings? How will we develop? And they keep speaking about this government, this, but you are part of the government as well. You cannot better what is being done, what is already being done with countless criticisms that are unconstructive. Mr. Speaker, the well-being of my constituents is at the heart of my development vision. As I embark on this journey, I am fully committed to working with the Ministry of Health to ensure that my constituents receive the care and support that they deserve. To this end, Mr. Speaker, I am determined to establish regular health checkups administered by health professionals, which will play a crucial role in facilitating early detection and prevention of illnesses. By investing in proactive healthcare, we have the potential to save lives and elevate the overall health status of my constituency. With the Ministry of Health, Wellness and Social Services receiving the second largest allocation of $73 million, it brings gladness to my heart to know that such ambitions and endeavors can materialize, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I am deeply passionate about community engagement and outreach. Together with healthcare providers, we will actively engage with my constituents, promoting a culture of health and well-being from an early age. Mr. Speaker, by nurturing this bond between caregivers and citizens, we can create a strong foundation for a healthier and more connected community. Mr. Speaker, as described by the Honorable Minister of Finance and Member of Parliament for Roseau Valley, the Ministry of Culture, Youth, Sports, and Community Development received an allocation of recurrent estimates totaling $13.3 million or 2.1%. Mr. Speaker, we have also seen a total of $25.7 million being allocated for capital estimates in that same ministry. The budget allocation, Mr. Speaker, is a conspicuous indication of this government's intention to foster to foster growth and development where sports and youth are concerned, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on that note, I would like to extend my deepest gratitude to my team. When I say my team, I mean my team, my constituency office team, and my constituency association for remaining with the parent, that is myself, on the St. Joseph playing field for 18 consecutive hours, Mr. Speaker, to ensure that a much-needed project at the St. Joseph playing field was completed in stipulated time, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we are speaking from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., Mr. Speaker, without moving and ensuring that the project is completed. I could not have asked for a better team, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would also like to extend my gratitude to the Honorable Prime Minister for his continued guidance, Mr. Speaker, and support to myself as a young parliamentary representative, because he understands the trials and the tribulations and the challenges out there, Mr. Speaker, and for ensuring that this project was indeed completed in its entirety. Mr. Speaker, I'd also like to extend my gratitude to Mr. Jack Gadakat, because without his intervention and contribution, this project would not be possible. Mr. Speaker, I have seen unprecedented togetherness within the St. Joseph constituency over this past week. Mr. Speaker, we were told by the naysayers that this project will not be completed, especially at the time that we wanted it. But Mr. Speaker, everyone worked collectively. Who can drive a truck, drove a truck, who can cooked, who can make juice, made juice. Mr. Speaker, and together as a community and as a constituency, we completed this much-needed project. Mr. Speaker, and I believe that this speaks vociferously. This speaks volume about what is to come in this central constituency, Mr. Speaker. And with the proper support from my colleagues here, Mr. Speaker, I know that great things are to come for the St. Joseph constituency. Mr. Speaker, as a young person myself and a sports enthusiast, I would like to pay sincerest regards and commendations to Alec Athanas for his outstanding performance during the test match between West Indies and India in Dominica. And I know that the Member of Parliament for Granby is being inflated with pride and satisfaction. And I can say to him, Mr. Speaker, and I am confident that we will continue to inflate him, especially when a Jasenjo ascends to such rank, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I also recognize the efforts of Mr. Kavim Hodge and that of every other Dominican who is out there contributing to sports in a remotely positive manner, Mr. Speaker, making their country proud. Mr. Speaker, this past Sunday, we proudly hosted our Soccerama event, which was widely attended by many, many persons. And I extend my deepest appreciation to all of my colleagues who attended, Dr. Daru, Honorable Oscar George, and all of the others, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we have witnessed a togetherness like that we have never seen before in this constituency, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this event created revenues and opportunities for significant money influx, Mr. Speaker, in our constituency. It was a successful event, Mr. Speaker, which also initiated the St. Joseph Football League. Mr. Speaker, our foremost priority remains completing the restoration works at the St. Joseph playing field, ensuring that it becomes a prime hub for sports and recreation. But not only that, Mr. Speaker, we are resolute in providing enhanced access to the basketball court in St. Joseph, Mr. Speaker. This includes both upgrading existing facilities and incorporating new ones, ensuring that our youth and sports enthusiasts can thrive in an environment conducive to honing their skills and talents. Furthermore, Mr. Speaker, I am proud to announce to this Honorable House that the final drawings and designs for the Bells and Mirror playing fields are well underway, and will be completed during the course of this fiscal year, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we will definitely be exploiting all of the opportunities that are provided here by the budget estimates where sports is concerned, Mr. Speaker. And my colleagues can all tell you, Mr. Speaker, that when I want something, I will trouble them until I get it, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm not a mosquito, Mr. Speaker. I would prefer that you refer to me as a sandfly, Mr. Speaker. You can slap, Mr. Speaker. You will not get rid of me, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would like to also add to the Honorable Defoe's sentiments, Mr. Speaker, in saying that we are intellectual crazy. But Mr. Speaker, I would like to say that we are intellectual lunatics, Mr. Speaker. Intellectual lunatics, Mr. Speaker, on this side of this Honorable House, Mr. Speaker. Intellectually bankrupt, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, if we on this side of this Honorable House are intellectually bankrupt, then on the other side, they are living in a perpetual state of intellectual recession, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I don't like this sort of politics, Mr. Speaker, but we have to be fair and we have to be real among ourselves. We will not know all of the answers, Mr. Speaker, but we can all appreciate the efforts that are being made by this government where development is concerned. I am grateful to have seen the completion of the first phase of the Lai reconstruction project, Mr. Speaker. And as alluded to by the Honorable Grant, this is going to foster tremendous economic opportunities, more than just for citizens of Dominica, but more particularly the residents of the Lai Valley area. You know, Honorable Grant spoke about Airbnb. Mr. Speaker, I would love to implore all of my constituents of that area to adopt such plans, Mr. Speaker, because this road is coupled with the international airport is going to create serious economic revenue where tourism and agriculture is concerned, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I am proud to have the best road in Dominica, and I can say this confidently. Mr. Speaker, we have better roads than Castibros, we have better roads than, the best road in Dominica, Mr. Speaker, spanning between the Hillsborough Bridge and the York Valley Bridge. And I would like to extend my gratitude to this government for the investments that they have made in repairing the Hillsborough Bridge at a tune of in excess of $6 million, Mr. Speaker. And while I'm on my feet, I'd also like to extend my gratitude to the government of the People's Republic of China for the addition of the York Valley Bridge, Mr. Speaker. And the Honorable Grant, along with my other colleague, Honorable McIntyre, spoke in length about the continuation of such project from the York Valley Bridge to the intersection in Warner. Mr. Speaker, I can tell you that once this project is completed, this is going to be an edifice, Mr. Speaker, a site to behold. Mr. Speaker, it's going to be a project of national importance. We also welcome the project of the retaining bridge in Bells, Mr. Speaker. I can say to the residents of Bells that they can rest assured that they will definitely be prioritized as far as employment opportunities go once this project is initiated, Mr. Speaker. And the same goes for the project in Layu, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Royer spoke about the Kawum Road, the continuation of the Kawum Road. Mr. Speaker, we welcome all of these projects. Mr. Speaker, I don't want to sound greedy, but we want to benefit in every single ministry, every sector of this government, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, and the people of St. Joseph can rest assured that I will continue being a sandfly to ensure that we get what we want. Mr. Speaker, let me turn your attention to the Ministry of Tourism. The development of our international airport is a significant project that will have a transformative impact on our economy. The airport will play a vital role in facilitating the growth of all sectors, particularly agriculture, tourism, and trade. Mr. Speaker, I firmly believe that the St. Joseph constituency holds immense potential as a captivating tourist destination, especially Mr. Speaker. And it would be remiss of me to not announce to this honorable house, and by extension the Commonwealth of Dominica, that we possess the finest tourism product in the Mirror Beach, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I can say this confidently. I know that this sort of sentiment would quarter my dear colleague, Honorable Henderson. Mr. Speaker, and I will do everything in my power. I also exploit the opportunities and the monies allocated for tourism, for community tourism, to ensure that we continue developing the Mirror Beach, Mr. Speaker, especially where beachfront facilities are concerned, public restrooms, Mr. Speaker. And we speak about picnic areas and huts and, you know, all sorts of development in the Mirror region, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we will also enhance the allure and bolster the tourism industry in the St. Joseph constituency. And I am fully committed to this transformative endeavor. Over the past weeks, Mr. Speaker, we have, for example, established different cleanup campaigns in every single hamlet of this constituency, Mr. Speaker. It is my intention that we continue such campaigns because we recognize the importance of conserving and preserving our pristine beaches, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as we strive to provide an enjoyable stay for tourists, I am also committed to enhancing other parts of tourism, Mr. Speaker, other areas where tourism is concerned. For example, Mr. Speaker, in Layu, we plan on introducing beach spots, Mr. Speaker, to promote sports tourism, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, with all of the allocations made, I believe that this is more than possible, Mr. Speaker. In the domain of agriculture and fisheries, Mr. Speaker, our agricultural sector is poised for transformation, and I am committed to empowering local farmers and driving economic growth within my constituency, with profound emphasis placed on the community of Bells. Now, Mr. Speaker, I can say to my constituents that I have received a commitment from a trusted ally who has never went back on their word and who has never disappointed us, Mr. Speaker, that I have received a commitment from that trusted ally of 2 greenhouses, Mr. Speaker. 2 greenhouses, Mr. Speaker. And as alluded to by the Minister for Agriculture, the price of a greenhouse is in excess of $13,000. I can say to the people, I can say to my constituents confidently that these greenhouses will be displaced among the constituents, Mr. Speaker, particularly in the Bells area. So, for example, we will place one of the greenhouses under the management of the Bells Farmers Group, and the other greenhouse under the management of the Meru Young Farmers, with both greenhouses remaining under the ownership of the constituency office, Mr. Speaker. So when we do these sort of things, Mr. Speaker, all of the gains and profits that are being reaped by selling of seedlings and all of this can be reinvested within the agricultural sector, Mr. Speaker. I understand the challenge of the Global Mail Road, for example, Mr. Speaker. And the extent of this road is going to be a lot financially. Mr. Speaker, I can tell the constituents of Bells that they can rest assured that my team and I have tailored a practical and working plan that will be accomplished on a phased basis, Mr. Speaker. And with the addition of the greenhouses, Mr. Speaker, and the gains that they have reaped, they can also buy 2 pallets of cement or 3 pallets of cement, Mr. Speaker. I am willing to provide labor, Mr. Speaker, and tariffs or whatever is needed. But the point is, Mr. Speaker, we are breaking dependency or sole dependence and total dependency, Mr. Speaker, on federal government, Mr. Speaker. And we are going to do something to help ourselves, Mr. Speaker, in the St. Joseph constituency. Mr. Speaker, members, esteemed members of Parliament, and fellow citizens, as we delve into the domain of education, in highlighting the significant investments that our government has made in the education of our children, ensuring that they have the best possible start in life and access to opportunities for their advancement. We have been steadfast in providing universal access to primary, secondary, and tertiary level education, as well as early childhood education in our schools. My commitment to empowering minds and nurturing talents takes center stage. This budget will enable me with the opportunity to materialize many of the plans I have for this constituency where education is concerned. Mr. Speaker, it would be remiss of me to not once again thank this government for the opportunity to pursue a university-level education, Mr. Speaker, in the People's Republic of China. I returned to my country to serve as a member of parliament, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this is why we don't have to pay attention to what these pundits may say and the naysayers, Mr. Speaker. China is an amazing place to pursue a university-level education. But it all begins with your mindset, Mr. Speaker. It all begins with what you want. And if you are determined, Mr. Speaker, and you're ambitious, then the sky is the limit, Mr. Speaker. You can go to Iraq, Mr. Speaker. You will definitely be successful. As we embark, on the national reset, it is imperative that we critically review our current education system. Now that's a given. Given the evolving national and global realities. As a member of Finance said in his budget presentation, Mr. Speaker, the world is undergoing dramatic changes, and we must adapt and adjust to keep pace with these transformations. A shift in our approach to education is necessary, and the national reset calls for comprehensive education reform that my dear colleague will be taking responsibility for, taking the charge on, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my vision for education extends beyond the classroom and into the realm of professional development. Mr. Speaker, to cultivate a workforce that excels in their respective fields, I am wholeheartedly expressing my support in robust professional development initiatives. A skilled and adaptive workforce is the bedrock of a dynamic economy, and I am committed to nurturing such a workforce within my constituency. Mr. Speaker, I would like to use the above-mentioned vision to reemphasize the importance of the budget estimates before this Honorable House. Mr. Speaker, where housing is concerned, the people of St. Joseph are extremely grateful to the interventions of this government where housing, as I said, Mr. Speaker, is concerned. Mr. Speaker, this government continues to work assiduously towards the realization of the goal to build 5,000 climate-resilient houses for citizens or residents of this country who deserves these houses. And we'll play a part in the St. Joseph constituency by continuing these sort of interventions, Mr. Speaker, for helping the most vulnerable constituents among ourselves. And I would like to announce to the people of the St. Joseph constituency that we have identified areas in the communities of St. Joseph, Layu, and Bells, of where possible housing construction can be done, Mr. Speaker. Finally, the domain of national security. Mr. Speaker, safeguarding the safety, well-being, and prosperity of my constituents is of paramount importance to me. With allocations made to the Ministry of National Security,
Three more minutes.
I am committed to taking the necessary steps to ensure the protection of my people. Mr. Speaker, as we speak, there are ongoing construction works or rehabilitation works at the St. Joseph Police Station, at the St. Joseph Police Station. I am dedicated to providing better accommodation to our police officers and inmates. This will enhance the overall effectiveness of law enforcement efforts within my constituency. Mr. Speaker, recognizing the importance of emergency preparedness, I am in support to invest the additional personnel in key services, including the Dominica Police Force, the Fire Service, and Prison Service. This will significantly enhance our emergency response capabilities, ensuring that our constituency and country are well prepared to address any situation. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, the St. Joseph constituency stands at the threshold of comprehensive development. With the prudent allocation of budgets and strategic implementation, I am well prepared to take bold strides towards progress and prosperity. My commitment to my constituents and beloved nation is unwavering. Together, with the support of this esteemed assembly, we will pave the way for a brighter and more prosperous future for all. With these few words, Mr. Speaker, I once again vehemently espouse the budget estimates before this Honorable House. I thank you.
Yes, Senator Lockhart.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Before I begin, Mr. Speaker, I must caution Honorable Lloyd that sandflies are worse than mosquitoes. So your colleagues are in problem with you, my brother. Mr. Speaker, I rise to give my contribution to the 2023-2024 budget, which the Minister of Finance has competently presented to this Honorable House. And I also seek your permission to refer to my notes from time to time.
Permission granted.
Thank you. Like every other national budget presented by this Labour Party-led government, 2023-2024 was met with high commendations by the Dominican public both here and abroad. Whenever this Labour Party government, under the leadership of Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit, presents a budget, the people of Dominica applaud in exuberance. It is always a fully loaded release of hope and confidence, suited for the times type of budget. You see, Mr. Speaker, traditionally, governments before this one would present budgets laden with pie-in-the-sky promises, with unrealistic projects and programs nearing the end of an election term to attract support. But this Labour Party government has eradicated these manipulative antics. There is no doubt that this current administration has enhanced and given us a budget that we can be proud of. Through observation, great analysis, and meticulous planning, this 2023-2024 budget was well tailored to cater for the well-being of every Dominican, not only living in Dominica, but Dominican diaspora around the world. Mr. Speaker, while the global economy has taken a massive hit and is still in recovery mode, your government in Dominica is saying to you that it will maintain every social safety net program, programs that will continue to benefit individuals and families, while other countries have been making cuts to their social safety programs. The World Bank feature on how social safety net programs protect families from the impact of economic shocks, natural disasters, and other crises indicate, and I quote, "A vast percentage escape poverty because of social safety nets, providing clear evidence that social safety net programs, which include cash, in-kind transfers, social pensions, and school feeding programs targeted to the vulnerable households and making a substantial impact in the global fight against poverty. Social safety net program," and end of quote, sorry. Social safety net programs not only have a positive and significant impact on education, health, and food security, but they also promote households' ability to generate income, which can positively impact the local economy. Mr. Speaker, there is one program that has been criticized and vilified by the opposition forces. They had nothing good to say about this program, while this government consistently championed the vast benefits of that program, and the evidence of the success stared them right in their face. They continued their assault. After all that was said about this program, we will soon celebrate a milestone of a decade of this program. Mr. Speaker, I'm speaking about the National Employment Program. 10 years and still standing. program has stood the test of time. And Mr. Speaker, I dare say that these people owe the NEP a public apology. Mr. Speaker, the contributions of the NEP on Dominica's socio-economy and the success stories are nothing short of amazing. The program's impact on single mother-headed households has been echoed multiple times. Some may not be aware that the NEP assistance to elderly goes beyond just physical care, but also into cleaning their yards, painting their homes, and sometimes conducting minor home repairs. Mr. Speaker, the program continues to play its part in resilience and mitigating the impact of natural disasters. As recently as during the passage of Tropical Storm Brett, the country was in a better state of readiness because of the work carried out by the NEP. The clearing of drains and other waterways, building of drains, cutting of overhangs, and planting appropriate vegetation to curb soil erosion, just to name a few. And Mr. Speaker, that was evident throughout the Castlebrooks constituency. Many businesses and organizations around Dominica continue to benefit from the human resources provided by the NEP program. And I suggest, Mr. Speaker and Minister Kosia, that moving forward, that we term this component the human resource grant, because this is exactly what it is. Government is in fact providing the staff and covering the wages. Basic maths will prove the significant benefits and savings that these businesses realize due to the NEP program. They can now use these savings to reinvest and to expand as their profit margin increase. And I say, long live the NEP. Mr. Speaker, the commitment and thrust of this government to improving the housing condition of the country's disadvantaged population by providing quality, safe, adequate, and sustainable housing is unprecedented. Further, our efforts aim at ensuring that everyone who is desirous of building a home can do so with some level of support. The housing program in Dominica is expansive, Mr. Speaker. In the Castlebrooks constituency, in particular, Pidi Soufriere, Sansove, and Godo, we are looking at the relocation of these residents to new communities. This relocation exercise does not end with just the identification of safe land, but instead, homes will be constructed and all the corresponding amenities required to create a new community. The housing revolution first started in the Castlebrooks constituency by then Parliamentary Representative Lauren Barnes Roberts. Today, we witness the continuation of this revolution and the evolution of this program across the country. What first started as home repairs have since advanced into the construction of new homes. Homes that are now fully resilient with the capability to withstand hurricane-force winds and in some cases, earthquakes. Apartment buildings and complexes equivalent to those in the United States, Canada, and France are now spread over many communities. Mr. Speaker, I am incredibly elated to know that the Ministry of Housing will continue to provide our citizens with the opportunity for an adequate standard of living. And even more so, Mr. Speaker, the government will continue to provide tangible opportunities for young people to own their own homes by the way of the construction of the first 50 homes under the future housing programs, 500 lots to public officers under special concession, and the provision of $10,000 for first-time homeowners under 40. And Honorable Minister of Housing, I can tell you, I've received several calls and WhatsApp messages from young people indicating their interest in lots. So you have 500 lots, and I got about 200 calls already. And a number of young people in the Constituency constituency to have benefited from the $10,000 grants, and it is my hope that others will take advantage of these opportunities as well as the other housing initiatives. Young people continue to be disproportionately affected by crime and violence. Mr. Speaker, we pay close attention to the media across the Caribbean. The impact of crime and violence on young people is alarming. Our islands are experiencing high record rates of crime and violence. As a government, we see this as a call for continued action, a call for our government to continue to invest in the development of young people. We will continue to ensure that the youth who are in conflict with the law have meaningful opportunities so they can reintegrate back into their families and communities. We will continue to develop and implement programs that focus on strengthening community networks as the young people feel supported in their communities, as evident in this year's budget. I must highlight programs like the Dominica Youth Business Trust, the Youth Skills Sharing Program, the National Employment Program, Small Business Unit, the Work Online Program, and other opportunities provided under the Caribbean Digital Transformation Project, among others. Our efforts are strengthening our social services to ensure that young people have access to wraparound services, such as psychological support, opportunities for higher education, opportunities for entrepreneurship, and families having access to parenting programs to support young people to reach their full potential will also continue. When we speak to young people, Mr. Speaker, they have ambition. They want to do better for themselves and for their families. And we need to capitalize on this. We need to ensure that we are targeted and deliberate in providing these wraparound services to rehabilitate these young people so that they can become productive Dominican citizens. This notion that the government is not doing anything for young people must be dismissed. The opportunities are there. I call on all young people, it's after 10, you all are still up. I call on all of you to come forward and take advantage of these opportunities that the government has created for you. Take advantage of the $10,000 grant for first-time homeowners under 40 years. The 500 lots which will be available this year. The many opportunities under the Digital Transformation Project, especially the grants and the digital hubs in several communities. The many scholarships and other training opportunities, both here and in Dominica, and from our bilateral partners. The several opportunities in small business development, training, grants, concessionary loan at Aid Bank at 3%, payment of rent for small businesses, opportunities in agriculture, and the list goes on. Make greater use of the opportunities that we are providing for you, the young people of Dominica. And I extend this call even more so to the people of the Constituency constituency. This 2023-2024 budget was designed with you in mind. Be ready. We are nearing completion of a $127 million road project, which is a major investment that will benefit our constituency in many ways. Any road project provides human benefits. It has an impact on the safety of travelers, vehicle operating costs, travel time, and of course, employment opportunities. We should now begin to position ourselves to tap into the economic benefits that will result once this road project comes to completion. Castle Bruce, Deepa, Mopo, Toronto, Good Hope, and Pidisufrier will soon become the new hotspots to lime, to eat, and to recreate. And it has started already. But sometimes some friends call me and tell me the Saint-Sauveur, the Pidisufrier, that's what happened in there. But maybe there are other things. But you see, we have a good road now. We have the best road. I mean, yeah. Half an hour. The further development of the Castle Bruce constituency will shift into high gear with the improved fish landing site in Saint-Sauveur, the upgrading of the Castle Bruce hard court and the playing field, and the creation of our own innovation hub under the Caribbean Digital Transformation Project. Mr. Speaker, Castle Bruce will get a slice of every pie, and Chisha Bonnie and us will ensure of it. We can't be greedy. A slice. It is left for beloved constituents to come forward, reach out, engage us, ask questions, be proactive, don't sleep on yourselves. We are your partners in development. Whatever we do, it is done with you in mind. As we step into this new financial year, Mr. Speaker, I look forward for the full implementation of all plans and programs clearly outlined by the Minister of Finance in the 2023-2024 budget, a budget that was carefully planned with sound financial management and responsible allocation of resources. And with these few words, Mr. Speaker, I give my fullest support to this budget. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the House be adjourned to tomorrow, Friday, the 28th of July at 10 a.m.
Seconded.
It has been moved and seconded that the House be adjourned until Friday, 20th July at 10 a.m. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. House stands adjourned to 10 a.m. Friday, 28th July 2023.
Mr. Speaker.